Good morning, afternoon, and evening to all of our audience. I'm Ross Moore, a full-time cybersecurity analyst, freelance information security researcher and writer, and a board member for SecJuice. People often think about cybersecurity in terms of firewalls, programming languages, ransomware, AI, and all the technical pieces. But one of the most important skills in security today isn't technical, it's the ability to communicate, to explain, to teach, to make people care. With artificial intelligence generating content at incredible speed, our human ability becomes even more important. I want to talk about the power of writing in cybersecurity, how writing sharpens thinking, builds influence, helps organizations make better decisions, and why the people who can combine technical knowledge with human communication are going to have a huge advantage in the AI era. The great thing is, you don't have to be a professional writer to do it. One of cybersecurity's biggest failures are communication failures. Cybersecurity is technically complex, yes. But some of our biggest failures, if not the biggest roots of failure, are in communication, which can be complex but in a human way. Not all people speak, read, or listen the same way. We spend billions on security tools, firewalls, EDR, AI-driven detection. One estimate shows that enterprise AI cybersecurity investment reached $213 billion globally in 2025, with AI-specific tools capturing 36% of cybersecurity budgets. But there are still data breaches where the warning signs were there, but they weren't understood, or they weren't acted upon because the message didn't land, or was heard but they didn't listen. This communication is not relegated to, we need to talk more in Slack, we need more channels and Teams, we need more email and text. What we need are practitioners and professionals who are not only able to wordsmith, but able to implement proper technology for monitoring, alerting, and triage, and then able to convey any dangers to the appropriate teams. We're not talking about replacing security professionals with AI. We're talking about how AI is changing how we research, how we draft, how we analyze, and how we decide. The professionals who will lead the next stage of security are the ones who, in addition to knowing the technical side, can write the clearest stories and use AI with the most wisdom. Please note, there's so much to say about writing, information security, and AI that it's impossible to cover everything in any presentation. There may be obvious things left out, but there's only so much time to actually spend here. By the time I've written, recorded, and presented this presentation, who knows how much more news there is about data breaches, cyber attacks, new groundbreaking research, some new AI model, on, and faster than ever. Let's keep going. Imagine two analysts. Analyst A is brilliant, finding a critical vulnerability in the core infrastructure. It gets fixed, the ticket gets logged, end of day, and off to home. Analyst B finds the exact same vulnerability and fixes it. But B writes a clear, concise report explaining why it happened, how it was exploited, and what the business risk is. Analyst B presents this to the engineering lead and to the CISO. 6 months later, a similar attack happens elsewhere. Analyst A's organization is blindsided again because the knowledge died in the ticket. Analyst B's organization recognizes the pattern immediately because the lesson was communicated. Same technical skill, completely different outcomes. The difference wasn't in the code, it was in the communication. This lack of clarity in an organization, whether from technical or business leadership, has always been a problem. It could be from not knowing the true capabilities of an app, the belief that a product would be an all-in-one solution that would even eliminate having to talk to other people, or one department not knowing how to truly communicate effectively with another department. In the new tech world that surrounds us, that's driven by AI, where technical tasks are increasingly automated at an unimaginable speed, the ability to make your work visible and understandable is your superpower. Look at the history of our industry. At one time, the hero was the hacker who could find the exploit. The skill was technical curiosity. Then there was the cloud, the hero who was the architect. The hero was the architect who could design scalable, secure systems. The skill was structural thinking. Along came mobile. The hero was the UX expert who could secure the device without ruining the experience. Now, in this AI era, the rules have changed again. AI can write code, scan logs, find patterns, and even create working apps faster than any human. Side note here, human in the loop seems like common sense, but many consider it unnecessary to get things going. Case in point, in early May of this year, Red Access reported that 5,000 vibe-coded resources revealed sensitive corporate information. This was because developers got carried away by using default settings, not the secure settings. Shadow AI is the new S3 bucket situation. It's not that the product is bad, it's that those creating the resources aren't thinking about proper secure development. So what are the new skills? They are communication, synthesis, storytelling, and explanation. AI handles the what and the how. People have to understand and present the so what and the now what. Let's look at the iceberg. Above the water you see the reports, the alerts, the meetings. That's what leadership sees. But below the water, that's the massive, submerged mass of investigations, lessons learned, insights, failures, and brilliant ideas that never made it out of the analyst's head or the private Slack channels. Someone fixing an issue, not documenting it, or documenting it and not sharing or tagging it properly, then leaving the company for whatever reason. Then 6 months later the same issue occurs and the remaining or new team has to redo it all. That's a waste of resources. And that's a security failure. Writing isn't just documentation, it's preservation. It's the only way to turn individual effort into organizational resilience. You might be familiar with the phrase, pictures or it didn't happen. In the audit world, if it isn't written, it doesn't exist. In information security, if it isn't documented, it didn't happen. It's easy to treat writing as the final step, something we do after the thinking is done. But in cybersecurity, writing is the thinking. When you're staring at a complex log file or a confusing network topology, your brain is fuzzy. You have half-formed theories, but the moment you try to put together a sentence explaining it, you hit a wall. You realize, wait, I don't actually know how this connects. Writing forces us to fill those gaps. It reveals the holes in our logic and hones our analysis. A tip. We all have different ways of thinking. Lately, I've been recording my security and writing related thoughts on my phone and transcribing the audio. So no need to write everything right away. Don't wait until you have the perfect answer to write. Start writing to find the answer. Writing is applied thinking. It's a tool in our life's toolbox that we use to clarify our own thoughts before we try to convince anyone else. A common quip is, if you can't explain it clearly, you might not understand it. That's a partial truth. Not everyone is trying to teach the concept to someone. Not all analysts are trying to explain it fully, so don't feel bad if you just can't get the right verbiage across right away. But in an organizational context, you will need to get the point across somehow. If you have trouble, get a friend, coworker, or an LLM to rewrite it for you. A couple cautions. Be very aware and cautious of what you A. share with anyone who helps, and or B. upload. Don't ever share, either personally or virtually, sensitive data such as client or corporate confidential information. While you trust your friend, it could be breaking your contract if you share. And an LLM that's out of your control is a bad thing. As you do more writing, you'll learn along the way how to communicate to different audiences and communicate as you. You'll learn to untangle and properly straighten that onslaught of words. That's what we're about at SecJuice, having a platform for information security people to write better, write about what you're interested in, to communicate more, and do it in your own voice. With all of this in mind, let's move to Act 1 about writing as a security control. A vague policy gets ignored. A clear, actionable policy, it gets followed. A messy incident report, recovery takes days. A crisp, structured report, recovery takes hours. A confusing executive summary, leaders make bad bets. A clear, risk-focused summary, leaders allocate the budget you need. Writing affects policy, incident response, awareness training, threat intelligence, and executive reporting. It's not a soft skill or nice to have. It's an operational necessity. If your writing is weak, your security posture is weak. Writing well leads to shared understanding, leads to faster action, leads to better security outcomes. A note on policy writing. Each policy doesn't have to be a work of art and full of unwieldy verbiage, but in the end, all the policies together will be quite long. Make your policies only as long as they need to be, but also be aware that others may gripe about how long it all is. Be ready to give an answer. And on that point about giving an answer, policies and processes should exist only as necessary. Don't make things up just to make life harder. Like writing, every line should exist for a reason. In cybersecurity, writing is how insight becomes action. In a crisis, chaos is the enemy. Good writing turns noise into action. Imagine a ransomware attack. You have hundreds of alerts. A vague alert says, suspicious activity detected on server X. What do? Nothing. You're busy. A sharp alert says, server X is communicating with known C2 IP. Scope, finance department, impact, potential data exfiltration, next step, isolate immediately. That prompts action. Good writing clarifies priorities. It creates alignment across teams. It preserves knowledge for the future. And most importantly, it accelerates response. In the time it takes to decipher a bad report, you could have contained a breach. The difference between an incident and a headline disaster is in part determined by how long it takes to discover and contain an intrusion. The sooner your teams understand what's going on, the sooner the compromise gets halted. Microsoft has a good page about AI in cybersecurity, and the screenshots above focus on the importance of simplified reporting, skill enhancement, actionable insights, and good policies that practitioners can leverage from using AI. Please note, I am not promoting Microsoft. I'm only using them as an example, just like I do with other vendors and apps throughout this presentation. Use whatever tools or platforms you like. But as writers and analysts, in our pursuit of information and education, let's not dismiss good information just because we don't like a source, and don't automatically trust information from a source just because we prefer that source. A tough part of the job is you have one truth, but you have 4 different audiences. If you tell the engineers they need precision, the hash, the port, the CVE ID. If you tell the executives they need business impact, they need to know, will we lose money? Will we lose customers? How much time will this take? If you tell the end users they need plain language, no jargon, just don't click this link. And if you tell the auditors they need traceability, they need to know the chain of custody and the compliance mapping. Always include the timestamp with a screenshot. The best security professionals are translators. They can take the same technical reality and translate it into 4 different languages without changing the truth. That's a leadership skill, and it's one that can be learned. I know that Log4j is a newer version right now than 2.17, which you'll see on the screen. I think it's on 2.25 or 26, but it's the example I came across. We often think of attackers as hackers in hoodies typing code, but the most successful attackers are storytellers. Social engineering is narrative manipulation. A phishing email isn't just a link, it's a story about urgency. Your account will be closed. Fear, we detected a breach. Or authority, the CEO needs this wire transfer now. In February of 2026, the automotive marketplace CarGurus was the target of a data breach attributed to the threat actor Shiny Hunters. It was part of the gang's code stealing spree in which they used voice phishing to obtain single sign-on codes from users of Okta, Microsoft, and Google. Social engineering, crafting a story convincing enough to catch people unawares, wins time and time again. Social engineers weaponize a person's inner workings. They understand the narrative better than we do. If defenders are just looking for signatures and patterns, we are playing defense. We need to become better storytellers too. We need to craft narratives that resonate with our users, that make security feel like a shared mission, not a roadblock. We have to out-narrate the attacker. We definitely need heroes. Heroes inspire, but attackers are often the first ones to tell us the truth. Let's talk about your career. In a world where AI can generate code and run scans, what makes you valuable? It's your voice. It's your perspective. Writing creates career leverage. When you write an article, post on LinkedIn, give a presentation, or even write a clear internal memo, you build visibility. Visibility brings compound interest. Your ideas outlive your title and your company. Your writing becomes scalable. Instead of helping one team, you potentially help thousands. In the AI era, where content is cheap, authentic human insight is a premium. Your unique experience, your specific way of seeing problems, that's your legacy. Start writing it down. Let's look at some avenues. My top pick is SecJuice. It's long-standing, good reputation, international audience. Substack, very popular, has good capabilities. Building your audience, though, can take a long time. Your own workplace or school, emails, reports, messages, those are all valuable. LinkedIn, it's simple, direct, but it takes time to build an audience if you can hack the algorithm. But don't limit yourself. Why not try all of them? And more, there's a lot out there to help you write. Pro tip. Like any real writing, you may not get much feedback from your audience. Writers only hear a fraction, if any, of their audience's thoughts. It's often the lack of interaction from readers that disappoints writers the most. But don't let it get you down. Take any kind of good interaction or good feedback that you can as an encouragement. Now we're on to Act 2 of 3, where AI changes the workflow. For decades, attackers had to scale manually, or even with automation. It's funny how automation seems old now in light of all the AI talk, but AI is here and changes that old style. AI brings in whole new dimensions while all the previous techniques are still around. There's phishing personalization, deepfake social engineering. Just look up anywhere to see some amazing AI videos. There's malware generation, reconnaissance automation, synthetic identities. AI compresses the time between vulnerability and exploitation. It compresses attack development. Reconnaissance is more powerful, more accurate, faster. Attackers are using AI to generate polymorphic malware and craft perfect phishing emails in seconds. AI compresses the ability of criminals to gather intel. Everything is moving faster. The gap between attack starts and damage done is shrinking. The question isn't just, are we moving fast enough? It's, are we moving accurately enough? Speed without direction is just a faster crash. AI's benefits become defensive augmentation, faster analysis, anomaly detection, triage, threat intelligence, synthesis, simulation, scenario generation. Both heroes and villains now have the same weapon. As with the attacker, AI compresses analysis time. What used to take a team days of log review now takes minutes. Vulns can be fixed faster. Threat hunting is less time consuming. The mundane tasks can be sped up. Better intel can be gathered and delivered faster. AI is a force multiplier. It allows a single analyst to do the work of 10. It helps summarize logs, draft and summarize reports, create training materials, analyze malware samples, and automate workflows. But here's the important distinction. AI amplifies capability, not expertise. Skilled professionals can use AI to be superheroes. For the unskilled and untrained, AI just makes them more efficiently wrong. AI doesn't replace the need for proper and practical understanding. It replaces the drudgery. It frees up people to do the high-value thinking, but you still need to be the one thinking. Use AI. Don't let it use you. Let's get practical. Where should you actually use AI? Don't use it to make the final decision. Use it to do the heavy lifting. Summarize those 500 lines of logs into a 3-sentence brief. Draft the first version of an incident report so you don't stare at a blank screen. Prioritize vulnerabilities by correlating them with your asset inventory. Generate questionnaire responses for compliance. Summarize that pen test or some other third-party report. Important reminder and a note. Don't ever upload corporate, sensitive, private, confidential, proprietary information to any unauthorized and uncontrolled LLM or AI tools. Ensure that whatever tool you use is properly secured, authorized, and under contractual obligations to protect your information and not train the vendor's models on your data. You have to read the fine print in the contract, terms of service, privacy policy, terms and conditions, documentation, etc. It can be tough, but that's what proper vetting of AI entails. The goal is not AI everywhere. The goal is AI where it reduces friction. Use it to remove the boring stuff so you can focus on the hard stuff. AI sorts faster, summarizes faster, makes drafts faster, gathers sources faster. AI is amazing. We have to be realistic. The same tools that help us are helping the bad guys. AI phishing is very good. Voice cloning is indistinguishable from reality. Synthetic identities are flooding the internet. Automated social engineering is scaling attacks to a level we've never seen. This isn't fear-mongering, it's reality. We're in an arms race where both sides have the same tools. The difference will be who uses them with more wisdom, more ethics, and more human judgment. More about synthetic identities. Creating fake personas has been around a long time, but AI enables rapid, automated generation of realistic supporting documents, deepfake biometric data, and consistent social media histories. Gen AI tools allow criminals to iterate on failed applications, mimic human communication styles for social engineering, and bypass traditional verification systems that rely on static data checks rather than behavioral analysis. With AI, the old attacks remain while the number and type of attacks increase. But don't fear. AI defensive capabilities are like other resources. The old resources don't disappear. AI actually adds to the capabilities that defenders and creators can use. AI creates infinite content. It can generate 1 million reports in an hour. But here's the trap. More information does not equal more understanding. We're drowning in data, but starving for wisdom. You can see here on the screen, by the end of 2026, global data creation is projected to reach 221 zettabytes. And a zettabyte is 1 trillion gigabytes. So this is increase of over 22% increase from what was generated in 2025. The daily creation, about 402 million terabytes. The traffic is going to be 143 exabytes per month, and it's going to be fueled by the rapid adoption of AI tools, which saw active users more than double to 2.42 billion in the past year, plus all the IoT devices. The flood of AI-generated content is overwhelming. If we just consume it, we'll drown. We need to be the filter, and we need to be the ones who cut through the noise. What is the valuable skill now? It's no longer finding information. A search in AI can find anything in seconds. The necessary and valuable skill is interpreting, filtering, prioritizing, and explaining. Anyone can find data, and regrettably, it's easier than ever for anybody and everybody to create and distribute mal information, bad data, misleading data. The questions that we need to ask and answer are, what does it mean? What matters? What do we do next? That can't be decided by the bot. Well, it shouldn't be decided by the bot. Here's where human judgment is irreplaceable. That's where you come in. How do we cut through the noise and find the signal? An example. Imagine trying to hear your friend speaking at a loud party. Your friend's voice is the signal. Everyone else talking is the noise. The challenge is not whether information exists. The challenge is identifying what actually matters. Modern security teams are drowning in information. They see alerts, logs, telemetry, emails, events, and warnings. Most of it changes nothing, matters little, and distracts from the real threat. For the signal, you're looking for that one indicator that reveals ransomware, compromise, insider threat, fraud, and active attack. Before AI, we struggled with too much information. After AI, we struggle with even more too much information. AI can generate infinite content, but people have to determine what matters. That is signal versus noise in the AI era. Generation is cheap. Judgment is expensive. AI can generate words. It can generate code and images, but it can't generate meaning. It can't present relevant decisions. This is why consulting, even internal subject matter experts, are in high demand. Everywhere you turn, there's a consultant ready to solve your problem. There's a lot of information out there, but lacking internal expertise on topic XYZ, it requires a personal, a one-on-one approach to help make the right decisions for each company. At some point, someone in charge is going to ask someone, make this make sense. That's your time to shine. In an era of infinite content, the ability to judge what is real and relevant is the most valuable asset you provide. Don't outsource your judgment to the algorithm. Keep it human. Where does AI fail? It hallucinates. It gives you confident answers that are completely wrong. It creates shallow summaries that miss the real meaning. You can just simply tell real writing. Thelonious Monk, an American jazz pianist and composer who lived from 1917 to 1982, said about jazz, "I don't have a definition of jazz. You're just supposed to know it when you hear it." It's like AI versus human writing. It's hard to describe, but you'll know it when you read it. There's a lot of noise about detecting AI writing. A problem with those AI writing detectors is that AI was trained on so many writings of authors who are about in their 50s. We were taught certain ways of writing, and like any students, we followed them. AI has, to echo something I saw recently from Elizabeth May, a romance novelist, that AI trained on writings by eating novels, quote, like a feral raccoon in a dumpster. Many grammar rules have changed, and the detectors are detecting that older style of writing on which the bot was trained as if it's AI style, but it's really mostly an older style. If you look at just about any top 10 ways to tell it's AI writing, about 7 or 8 of those are going to be, that's the way we wrote back then, and we still write like that. AI creates a sense of false confidence. It creates a tendency for people to trust a machine when it's wrong instead of people when they're right. In cybersecurity, being wrong is a dangerous thing. False positives, false negatives, misfired alerts, they need someone to make the real decision what to do. Human governance isn't a nice to have. You and I are accountable, not the algorithm. A case in point of responsibility, 2 recent MCP attacks involving Mitiga and Adversa were accomplished using agents. The agents had elevated privileges, but because they were agents authorized by the companies using the agents, the attacks were deemed as normal operations. The users, the people using the agents, were held responsible, not the vendor. As Dan Barahona put it in his article about the attacks, the trust dialogue is the boundary. Everything past that click is treated as authorized. Be aware of your responsibilities when using AI. It's not always clear, and providing clarity in your company could be a great practical way for you to explain what's involved in the use of AI at your org. Always verify. Always question. You as the writer, as the analyst, as the researcher, can help your company find the signal. So what is the winning strategy? The hybrid model. Let AI handle the first draft. Let it handle the first pass. Let it do the correlation, but then you validate, you decide. Help define where AI adds value and where human governance is required. Build process discipline and create review gates, or go, no-go decision points. It's not about resisting AI. Almost every single company is inserting AI something or other into their product. Be responsible with it. Will it take less time? It depends. A single report may take less time, but the new demand is for more output and better quality. AI is the tool. Use it as needed to meet the new cybersecurity and business demands. You'll be able to make that report go faster and be able to make it and each other report better with better data, which leads to better business and operational decisions. Good security teams will be able to master this model, not be mastered by AI. Now to our final act, the human advantage. So what can AI never replace? Trust, empathy, ethics, leadership, intuition, meaning. These aren't bugs in the human system. They are features. In cybersecurity, we're dealing with human problems: deception, manipulation, trust failures. You can't automate trust. You can't algorithmize meaning. These are the things that make us human, and they are the things that make us essential. Let's zoom out. We're not protecting machines. We're protecting people. We're protecting the family using their bank account, the hospital saving lives, the school educating children, the infrastructure keeping the lights on. Every alert, every policy, every incident response is about human consequences. Keep that in mind when you write. Your words protect real lives. Never forget the human behind the data. 3 notable and extensive studies and documents regarding the ethics of AI in relation to people are Harvard's AI for Human Flourishing program and GLOO's, that's Gloo, Flourishing AI Initiative, and the Catholic Church put out in 2025, Antiqua et Nova. The future belongs to the explainers, not just the technicians, not just the managers, but the people who can bridge the gap between technical complexity and human understanding. Those who can translate the jargon into business impact. Those who can create clarity in chaos. Who can build trust. That's you, and that's us. That's the future of our profession. And it doesn't have to be in writing. It could be visuals, diagrams, charts, videos, web conference, or video calls. Even scripts or communication. It doesn't have to be official writing either. It could be in email, chats, LinkedIn posts. Anything where you write will improve your ability to communicate. Try different media. You'll get better. And you might ask, how can I explain at work? Well, there's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. There are tabletop exercises, regular security awareness emails, bulletins, and etc. Be the internal explainer. Jump in whenever and wherever you can to provide valuable information. As synthetic content rises, human authenticity becomes more valuable. AI can generate words, but it can't generate lived experience. It can't generate the insight you gain from a 10-year career. It can't generate the intuition built from fixing 1,000 fires. Your perspective, your voice, your judgment, these are irreplaceable assets. Be authentic, be human. That is your competitive advantage. Let's talk about the craft. Write to think, not just to publish. Writing is how we clarify our own thinking, especially in uncertain situations. Good writing improves incident handling, policy design, and strategic planning because it forces precision. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start writing to figure it out. The act of writing is the value. I think that published writing, even a self-published book, is the new portfolio. You can write and write all you want, and publishing a book is a minimal cost. And that writing is not to make money, it's to build a reputation and provide a ready-made source for your experience, knowledge, and wisdom. Don't try to find your voice. You already have one. Go and make it better. Go improve and grow. What does good writing look like? It all depends. When I first started on this slide, I thought things such as clear, concise, accurate, audience-aware, actionable, updated. But then I realized, well, it really all depends on what you're doing. What are you writing? Not all InfoSec writing is about that. There's more. There's so much more than just a single way of writing. Some examples here on the screen. You got an intelligence bulletin. You're looking for awareness and risk clarity. The pen test report. Primary goal is action, and you're looking to present action points. Your personal InfoSec blog. You're looking for engagement, and you want authenticity. Security awareness. You're looking to personalize security and give clear direction. And it can be stories. It can be made up. Some of the stories can be made up, but you do want clear, actionable direction. And then the DFIR report, digital forensics and incident response. There's a precise process that goes into that, and you want clear procedures. Different audiences, different goals, different writing. What you see on the screen here is a simple Intel report from a recent webinar entitled Turn Cybersecurity Headlines into Action from Black Hills Information Security with Wade Wells, a detection and response engineer. So this gives good examples of well-written versus poorly written. For instance, name-specific TTPs with attack technique IDs versus vague threat descriptions with no TTP mapping. And then the last one ends with a detection or mitigation you can act on now versus ends with a product pitch, demo request, or webinar link. So ArcX and Attack IQ also have great courses about writing Intel reports, but look online and you'll find tons of resources for good Intel or good ways to write Intel reports and just about any other kind of writing. Here we are. We've reached the finale. Here are 3 challenges for you. 1. Write one thing publicly. A post, an article, a blog. Feel free to opine, assess, analyze, write up, or present findings. 2. Share your knowledge. Teach one thing internally. Mentor someone. Share what you know. And 3. Use AI to amplify your writing. Don't use the bot to replace your writing. Use it to get better. Start today. Don't wait for permission. In cybersecurity, clear writing is how expertise becomes action. AI generates words. People produce intelligence. The future belongs to cybersecurity professionals who can think clearly, write clearly, and use AI wisely. In cybersecurity, clarity is not cosmetic, it's protective. The better that risk is explained, the better you can defend. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Sayali Paseband and thanks for joining SecjuiceCON, and we are going to talk about the human layer. Why culture and not technology remains the strongest security control. So here's something I've come to believe after years in this work, and that is most of what we call cybersecurity isn't really about computers or technology. It's about people. The firewall almost never fails. What fails is a human moment. A tap, a click, a sure, this sounds fine kind of thing. So for next few minutes, I want to walk you through how attackers actually win, why awareness alone isn't saving us, and one thing each of you can do tonight that matters more than any tool. So we are going to learn all of that through this presentation today. Moving on, so let's start with phase 1. Why are we losing? Um, we are losing not because the technology is bad. It's never been better, to be honest. The tools are smarter, the budgets are bigger, the vendors are louder than ever. But we are losing because we keep treating a human problem like a technical one. And let me show you what I mean here. So imagine this lands on your phone right now. A message from, let's say, a Metro Bank. It says unusual sign in, 10 minutes to verify your account logs. And you tap. The page looks right. The logo, the colors, padlock, everything is perfect. You type your password, half watching, half thinking about your meetings tomorrow, about the dinner you're going to have, or things like that. And you hit submit. Mm, you go to bed. You don't think about it again until, let's say, Friday morning when your card gets declined and your bank calls you about a wire transfer to another country. So here's the thing, you're not stupid, you're not careless. You are a person who made the same call almost any of us would have made. That's social engineering today. And here's what's actually happening in that text. There are 4 moves, all working at once. There's a lookalike link. So it's, let's say, metrobanksecurelogin.com instead of metrobank.com looks fine at a glance. But it's not the real domain. The brain reads the bank name and it reads logging and stops looking for other red flags. Then there is manufactured urgency. It says 10 minutes. That's not arbitrary. It's the precise window that pushes your brain from think to act. Long enough to feel solvable, but short enough to skip the careful read. And then there is trusted brand. That's your bank. It could be Amazon, it could be UPS, FedEx, it could be anything that you use digital transactions for. The names you already feel something about. Attackers don't pick brands at random. They pick the ones that make your shoulders drop a little when you see them. And a one tap trap. The page on the other end is perfect copy. Same logo, same colors, same little padlock. So you type your password and it's gone. Not compromise later, it's just gone in second between enter and submit. So each of these is a small technique, but together they are a system. They're a pipeline designed to move you from seeing to tapping without ever stopping at a very important critical phase of thinking. So you just see and you tap it. You don't see, think, and tap it. And it works. It works on trained people, it works on tech people, it works on everybody every single day. Moving on, uh, so for so many years we have been asking the wrong question, and the question was why did they click? Um, Go back to that text from Metrobank for a second, and when the email lands, you tap, you go to bread, then after a few days, your card is declined. Now, between the tap and that moment between you receive the text and you tap, there were maybe like 90 seconds, 90 seconds where you almost felt it, where something whispered, like, wait, are you sure you want to do this? Uh, So, where if you would message to one person, your partner in the next room, or your friend who works in tech, or even yourself in the Notes app, someone might have said, don't do it. But you did not do it. You did not message anyone. Not because you did not care, but because asking felt heavier than hoping, maybe. So the wrong question is why did they click? The right question is why didn't they say anything in those 90 seconds? Why didn't they tell anyone? Now that's the part we control. That's the defense we have in our hand. Now I'll tell you what I got wrong for years. I thought the answer was more training, better policy, sharper phishing simulations, a nicer UI on annual security module, and then I started watching what actually happens in real organizations and real families, and I noticed something uncomfortable. So, smart, trained people sit on incidents for days, not because they did not recognize it was bad, they did. They sat on it because reporting felt worse on it than ignoring. That's not a knowledge problem, that's a culture problem that we're talking about. So here's the thing, we already have the tools. We have multi factor authentication, we have spam filters, we have password managers, we have antivirus. The tech industry has spent 30 years and billions of dollars building this stack. And honestly, it works most of the time. But, but, MFA only works if you're awake enough to read the prompt before tapping approve. Half of us approve on muscle memory now. The buzz, the tap, back to the show. Spam filters work great for emails. They don't see text that comes straight to your phone. The ones with no preview, no subject line, no time to think. And password managers, they're brilliant. Until someone's watching over your shoulder at a coffee shop, or until you're tired and just type the password manually because it's faster. And antivirus can see you typing your real password into a perfect copy of a real website. As far as it's concerned, you are just typing. Now, notice the pattern. Every single tool, every one of them, has a moment where it hands the decision back to the human. And that human is you. You may be tired, your brain might not be functioning at that moment, or that human could be your mom, your coworker, your friend, your child, or someone who is going to maybe call you for help. So the tools are good, but they are just not enough. It comes to your awareness, your functioning, and your own defense. Your reflexes should be right. So let's understand what are we actually missing. I want to give you a way to think about what's actually happening between an attacker sending a message and someone telling someone else about it, because that is where the gap is and everything important. Here's a trap a lot of us fall into. The math feels solid. Nothing bad has happened to me. Nobody I know talks about getting scammed. So we are all fine. But that math is wrong. It feels right. It feels like reasonable inference, but there's a hidden variable, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The real equation is not nothing happens, nobody talks, everyone is safe. The real equation is nothing gets talked about because everyone is quietly hoping that nobody noticed. The family group chat where nobody shares the time they almost wired money to fake landlord. That's not a safe family. That's a quiet one. The team Slack where nobody mentions the phishing email they clicked last month. Not a vigilant team, just a quiet one. The friend who's been weirdly stressed about money lately and won't say why. Maybe nothing. Maybe they got hit and they're too embarrassed to tell anyone. So, silence is not safety. Silence is just silence. And the difference between safe circle and a quiet one is whether the people in it would actually tell each other when something went wrong. And that is the thing we're trying to fix here. So here's a framework to think about it. A way to slow down what happens in those 90 seconds between the message arrives and something bad happens. I call it the human led threat model. Threat models are not new. Security teams build them all the time for networks, for applications, for cloud systems. You map out where an attacker could get in, what they would touch, and where you would catch them. What we almost never do is build one for people. For the moment a fish lands in your inbox, and for the moment your mom looks at her phone, for the moment your coworker hovers a link and isn't quite sure, that's the gap this threat model fills. It breaks apart what feels like single moment I got fished into actual sequence of small decisions underneath. Did you see it? Did you feel real? Did you trust it? Did you click? And the one almost everyone forgets, did you tell anyone? Five small decisions, each one is a place where things can go wrong, and more importantly, each one is a place where you have a leverage. Let me show you what that looks like. Before I show you the model, I want you to hold four questions in your head. Just four. We'll come back through the rest of the talk. So, the number one is, did I see it? Do you see it? Sometimes the message just slides past us late at night, in between meetings, on a 5-inch screen with 1 bar of patience left. Half the time, the danger is not that we are ignoring a warning, it is that we never really saw one. Next is, do you believe it? Did it feel real? Even when we do see it, our gut decides in milliseconds. Before our brain has a chance to react or to weigh in. Looks like a bank, looks like Chase, Wells Fargo, sounds like bank, must be bank. That feeling, real or not real, happens faster than you thought. The next is, do you act? Do you trust it? Do you verify? This is where the time pressure wins. 10 minutes to verify, your account locks in 5 minutes, your boss needs this right now kind of things. Trust is fast. Verifying takes effort. Attackers know exactly which one you'll pick when you're tired. And the last one, the one that I care about the most, is do you tell? Did you tell anybody? Because everything else can go wrong and you can still come out fine if someone hears about it in time. The first three are personal, the fourth one is the only one that pulls maybe other people in. So we are going to come back to that one a lot. For now, hold on, all four in your head. Did I see it? Did I believe it? Did I act? And did I tell? That's the model. Moving on. So here are the five stages. Perception is, did they see it? Interpretation is, did it feel real? Decision is, did you trust and verify? And action is, click it or close it. And telling is, did they tell someone? Was it reported? Was it fast enough? So every scam, every fake, every weird message you have ever received, they all go through these five stages. The bank email, the bank message that we saw earlier, five stages. The deepfake voice call that you might get in like next few weeks, five stages. The LinkedIn message from recruiter who isn't really a recruiter, five stages. It's not just the attack that goes through them. Um, every defense also goes through them. So every time you didn't fall for something, you walked through these five stages, usually without noticing. And one of them caught it. Now, notice telling is highlighted. The other four are muted gray. So telling is uh, important. The first four happen inside your head. They're private, they're fast, they're shaped by how tired you are, how distracted you are, how good the attacker is. But telling is the only one that leaves your head, your private space, the only one that pulls other person in, the only one that turns something bad almost happened to me into something bad almost happened. And now we both know it. So that's why it's highlighted. The only stage where help is possible. It could be from customer care, it could be from a friend, it could be from a tech associate, it could be from your help desk, your security team, anybody. And as we'll see in a minute, it's the stage almost everyone fails at. So attackers attack every single stage. Stage 1, they make the page polished, professional. Stage 2, they create like a lookalike link, lookalike domain. They write the names of brand you trust. They copy the logos, the color schemes, everything. Stage 3, act in 10 minutes. They press the urgency. They pull the psychological trigger of curiosity, urgency, and things like that. And stage 4, you type your password. You take the action. You go to that link. You click on the attachment. So you act on it. Stages 1 through 4, that's their turf, their area. They've spent years optimizing it. You will not outdesign them on those regularly. But stage 5, telling someone, reporting the incident, is yours. That's the only stage where you have full control. And here's why this matters more right now than ever. Because with everything going on, with AI becoming like so authoritative, agentic, everyone using it. So AI has just changed every stage at once. The fake page now looks identical to the real one. The voice on the phone, it could be your boss, your kid, your bank. The video call created by deepfake is just a lookalike of somebody you love. Um, the lookalike link is generated in seconds at scale in your language with your local references also. So everything that used to be a tell is gone. That was a red flag is not detected anymore. Bad grammar, weird formatting, generic greetings, they're all fixed by AI. What hasn't changed is the stage 5. Uh, and that's One thing AI cannot fake, maybe your relationships. So AI is the ultimate tech fix and it will fail for the same reason every tech fix has. The model only sees what people decide to tell it. And a quick reality check: if someone you love almost fell for a scam an hour ago, would you know it? Probably not, and neither would anybody else. That's the gap we are trying to close. So, what to do? What do we need to do? Do we need more tools? Do we need to install more applications? Let's see. To answer that question, let me show you what this looks like when it goes wrong. Not hypothetically, real scenarios, two people, same call, same day. The phone rings, caller ID says it's the bank. The voice on the other end is calm, professional. They know the last four digits of the card. They say the words designed to skip past the thinking part of your brain. And they say things like, someone is wiring money out of your account right now. To protect it, we need to move your funds to a secure holding account. Now look at the left side. This is person A who is following the caller's instruction. Their phone rings, they see the caller ID, they hear the agent's voice, they understand that the agent knows the last four of their card also, so maybe it's an authorized agent. So they ask the agent asks them to move the funds to safe account and they transfer their $80,000 into another account. And that could be the scammer's account. And then the last line seals it. They say that don't tell anyone. This is an active investigation. We're investigating the fraud. And by the time the real bank reaches this person 2 days later, the money is already in another country, in another account, and it's not recoverable. And what is the outcome? $80,000 were gone. Now look at the right side. It's the same call, same caller ID, same urgent voice, and same script. But 2 minutes in the call, this person B says these five words. He says, "Let me call you back," and he hangs up. Flips his credit card over, dials the customer care number printed on the back of the card, and 4 minutes after the scam's call started, the real bank has confirmed that there was no wire attempt, flagged the number, placed the fraud alert on that number, and is sending a new card to this person B. So the outcome is nothing is lost, and this person was protected in 4 minutes. Same call, same person, almost same intelligence, same job, same level of street smarts. The only difference between losing $80,000 and losing zero is one decision that was made in first 2 minutes of the call. And that was hanging up, calling back on the authorized number, authorized party that the scammer does not control. And here's the thing that I want everyone to sit with. Like, this person A here is not gullible or confused or naive. This person A is calm, capable, smart, and following what feels like good advice from what sounds like a real authority figure. The scams are always engineered specifically to make smart people behave this way. Fear plus urgency plus a confident voice plus a don't tell anyone. Last year in 2025, people over 60 lost $445 million to impersonation scams of more than $100,000 each. That number was 55 million in 2020, 8 times more in 5 years. This is not a fringe problem. This is happening right now. This could be happening right now to somebody's family, somebody's friend somewhere. So here's the line I want you to remember. The scammer needs you to stay on the line, but customer care needs you to hang up. And that's true in all the situations. That's the whole defense, not technology, not training, a 4 seconds decisions to end the call and dial a number that attacker cannot touch. So that's the price you pay for not making that one call or not taking that one decision. But wait, that's easier said than done always. So, um, so don't think that you don't want to bother people. You bothering them is them being useful. Let them be useful. These authoritative calls, the customer cares, they are sitting to help you. So let them be useful. Don't think that you'll feel stupid if you're wrong. So you'll feel worse if you're right and stayed quiet. So ask anyway. And don't think that you're not technical enough, because attackers don't target the technical, they target the trusted. So the cost of asking is small, the cost of not asking is everything. So I want you to stop investing in more apps and start investing in better habits. Create that awareness, build better habits. So apps tell you when something's already wrong. Habits stop the wrong thing from happening in the first place. So only one of those scales everywhere, in every organization, in every family. So work on building better habits. And what are those habits? So there are 4 habits. Build them into your week. They cost nothing. So every day, daily, pause before you tap anything urgent. Urgent is a lure. 30 seconds breaks the spell. Also, every day, verify out of band when something feels off. If a voice or video feels wrong, hang up and call back on a number you already know. AI can fake your boss, it can fake your kid, it can fake your family, it cannot fake the number in your phone. So just verify before you trust. Then every week, weekly, tell someone when you almost fell for it. Be it in your family group chats, be it in your friends, your best friend. The near miss is everybody else's warning. Then always believe people when they ask. No mockery. No, how did you not see that? If you make asking cost something, no one will ask you again. So um, believe in people when they ask. So, one more thing before we close. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need to work in security or IT or in technology. You don't need a certification. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. What you need is what this entire talk has been about. It is treating cybersecurity awareness as a life skill. We teach our kids to look both ways before crossing the street. We teach them to not talk to the strangers. We teach them to wash their hands. That's like basic hygiene. None of those are technical skills. They are human ones. They're passed down. They're practiced. They're modeled. And this is the same. So, knowing how to pause before you click, knowing how to verify before you trust, knowing how to ask without shame and answer without judgment, these are not IT skills. These are not typical security skills. They are life skills. As basic as reading a label on a medicine bottle, as basic as locking the front door. And like every life skill, they don't spread through training programs, they spread through people. The parent who shows their kids how to check a link instead of saying don't click. The friend who replies send it to me in 3 seconds, no lecture, no site. The co-worker who shares their own near miss first so the next person feels safe to share theirs. That's not leadership because of a title. That's leadership because someone is watching and learning. And one day will do the same for someone else. So every person in this room is going to get asked this week, maybe today. The question is, what life skill will you pass on? And through all of this, there's been one quiet idea underneath. The strongest control in security is not a tool, it's you. Your awareness, your pause, your willingness to ask, your willingness to get asked, the 4 seconds it takes to flip the credit card over and dial the real number, the text you send to a friend who will never make you feel small for asking. We have spent so many years building better firewalls, better filters, better tools, better applications, better softwares, and the firewalls work, the filters work, the tools work, but none of them work in the moment that actually matters. The moment between something feels off and what do I do, that moment is human. and it has always been, and it will always be human. And no amount of technology will ever take it from us. So, here's what I want you to take from tonight: be someone's safe person. R- Treat cybersecurity as your life skill. Be cyber aware, be threat aware. Um, and it's very easy to ask, it's easy to verify, it's easy to admit you almost fell for it, it's easy to hear someone else say, I think I just did something dumb, without making them feel dumb. That's the human layer, and that's the strongest control. It's not a tool, it's you. So with that, we would end our presentation. Thank you all for joining.
Hello, this is Anitha Dakamarri. I have 18 years of experience in cybersecurity, mostly into application security, some into network security. I'm also an active volunteer contributor and mentor in different organizations like IC2, ISACA, Women in Cybersecurity, Women for Cyber, and OWSP and CSA. So today I wanted to make a little lightning talk about how AI is going to improve the secure code reviews. Traditionally, secure code reviews or source code reviews, used to help developers to refine the code when they go to the production, but with a lot of caveats. Before AI, for example, you have in any organization, you have your source code repos located in your GitHub or in your ADOs and somewhere, and you get a scanning tool like any other tool in the market, and you point this tool to your source code repos, and they perform the scanning and provide the results. You perform analysis on the results, and they are meant to provide a lot of false positive because they don't understand the context of the context of the developer context of that code, and you remove all the false positives. You still have remnant of false positive, and you send it to the developer, and the feedback loop goes on, like negotiation, talkings, and discussions around the findings. It is a lot time taking process, but with AI, I'm not saying that it is going to do magic, but I'm saying that before even committing your code, AI can provide you instant fix suggestions based on the developer intent, based on the context. So what I'm trying to say, AI helps with context. um, you know it reduces the false positives, and provide context, and provide reactive vulnerability detections, and also provide framework specific risk which we never existed before in the traditional tool set. And also you get these instant code fix and suggestions and remediation recommendations in the IDEs even before your pull request committed, in before you're going to even CI/CD pipelines. So it also helps to map this particular source code risk and to the real world attack patterns. So AI will help the understand the code patterns, understand code context, and also developer intent. I'm also trying to say there are some caveats. AI is still not fully mature. It still provides hallucinate. It might sometimes provide some insecure fixes. It might some provide some misinterpretations to the business logic. Sometimes AI itself is not secure. If you have seen like the recent attack, so on cloud, when AI took a wrong, one of the code agent took a wrong step and wiped out entire database of a company. So there are some caveats too. So I would suggest use AI, implement responsibly. AI will help when you implement responsibly. And also having a human in the loop always helps. So human plus AI defending together will help. That's all for today. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Chetan Ratnawat again. I'm cybersecurity architect and 25 years of industry experience. So let's talk about what we have discussed today. So today we are going to talk about how we can, how the insurance industry can be entirely change operation excellence and operation pathway. So we are going to look at everything in the more detail about how this operation can be, operation transformation overall could possible. So let's talk about understand the system first. Okay, so traditional insurance is a broken model. Why we say it's broken model? If you see the annual assessment, okay, it's a risk. This and the risk assessment happen annually once in a year per customer. Okay, in the today's world where the everyday is changing, the vulnerabilities, new cyber attacks coming on day-to-day daily basis, but the annual risk assessment is happening. That is the reason is this is the broken model. It's a static questionnaire. So one set of questions for all the customer based on the static customer insurance company providing the quote and quoting the insurance amount, which is not accurate in this time. One size fits policy all for all, because a static questionnaire and a static approach, we are providing the same policy for all the customer, even though their risk is different. Every customer has their own risk, okay, and it is changing on day-to-day basis. That is the reason it's impacting insurance industry a lot. Limited visibility of the risk, because we are just doing the based on the study questionnaire, we are judging the risk, okay, and it has a very limited visibility, and that create the lots of issues. And when we are in this AI era, you see the threats are coming every day. It's changing the entire game. Most of the time the insurance company will come into the action once the post breach once the breach is happened and claim has been filed. So that will, it's more on reactive approach. The This is what is happening in the current insurance model, but now insurance companies started thinking about how you can improve this one. Okay, so after coming AI into the picture, it's changing the entire ball game. Okay, so let's look at to understand this one. Okay, so we are talking about here AI-powered risk scorecard. It is the scorecard. So through dynamic profiling, you can create the data, you collect the data for the customer, which is from outside with the help of third-party APIs or different tools are available. This real-time data will give you the exact pattern about the individual customer. So based on that pattern, you can create their dynamic risk profile. And once you create the dynamic risk profile, you have each and every parameter about the customer, like what kind of infrastructure they're using, what kind of their business is there, what kind of risk is there. Based on this parameter, it will help the underwriter to decide the claim, decide the policy premium, and they can provide the multiple option to the customer policyholder. So policyholder can select the option based on the risk. With the higher the premium, lower the higher the premium, higher the risk, lower the premium, lower the risk. Um, um, so this we can provide the multiple quote also to the customer based on this dynamic risk profile. So you can, instead of one, you could have multiple quote or options can provide to the customer. Now, after developing the scorecard, okay, if you use this scorecard, okay, to provide the more detail to the customer, you will see how this insurance industry's entire operation and everything is changed. Let's understand differently. So we are talking about annual assessment. Now you have continuous monitoring, continuous assessment happening on day-to-day basis, because it's an on-time dynamic data you are collecting. Instead of static questionnaire, you have dynamic data collections are happening. It's a tailored policy and coverage you are offering to the customer instead of one size fit for all. Instead of limited visibility, now you every day you have a risk profile is available, risk visibility is there. That will help us to customer as well as insurer for both to provide the better visibility. Post breach response, instead of this one, before that you have proactive risk measures, so you are providing the more detail to your customer or policy holder. It will beneficiary for both. Before the attack is happen or it will go to the claim, There are lots of proactive measures already been informed to the customer, and as well as insurance company taking the measures. Based on that, they are deciding the premium, and they are providing the multiple options, and it will give more visibility to the customer, so customer can, based on that, customer can decide or improve also the risk profile. So once the better the risk profile or lower the risk is there, lower the premium. Okay. This approach will not only help to the customer as well as to the insurer as well as the policyholder both, and because it is a win-win condition for both, so it may allow to maintain the good relationship. Now you see the dynamic impact of this as a scorecard, how is really industry is reacting on this one. Okay, the many of the case studies shows very clearly 78% improvement. You see the reduction in the policy issuance timing. The policy issuance time is reduced. It means we are reducing issuing the more policy within the short duration. 42% improve in the loss ratio, like more accurate risk assessment we are doing. So that is helping them to give the better pricing and proactive risk mitigation recommendation. Client retention also increased through 2x, as the study says. The reason is because higher the client satisfaction, the more the choice they have based on the risk profile. So it is helping to retaining the customer as well as improving the claim. We can see more details about like in really like how it's overall improving. If you see the claim processing time, 70-80% reduction, underwriting accuracy time 35 to 50% improvement, fraud detection 40 to 60% efficiently we are detecting the fraud more accurately. Loss ratio improvement, you can see 15 to 25% reduction. Financial reporting speed is increased like 80% faster. Compliance monitoring is happening. It's This is an important point. Compliance monitoring based on the changing need and dynamic risk, it's automatically taken care by the score. So it's 100% compliance. It is not static now; it's more dynamic. Operational cost, it's reduced 20 to 30%. Customer experience is fantastically increased on this one. Policy issuance time 78% reduction, like we can issue the more policy. So AI is transforming the insurance from slow processing to smart real-time operation. So this approach is across the industry, it's impacting a lot. So this is all about for today's presentation. Thank you guys.
Good day. Maybe you've seen these kinds of missile maps before. We can view the constant stream of attacks and scans that are happening across the globe. Most of these are automated systems scanned by bots, and in this talk we'll cover how you could try and detect them when you make use of HP header validation. Let's start. My name is Bob van Staak. I'm a red teamer and security researcher work for the Dutch Railways. And at the moment a request is made to your server, it will send some sort of information along. These HP headers can give information about who's reaching your server, like a passport. All of these HP headers are spoofable, but most of the people aren't aware of the vast majority of HP headers out there. And this talk will cover some that you could use to differentiate humans from bots. And in the past, you could try and fingerprint you by making use of HP headers. And for specific user agent HP headers, besides this very known HP header and spoofable, the fingerprinting possibilities were greatly reduced. And that's because of user agent reduction, where a decision was made to reduce the fingerprinting possibilities by providing a static user agent string based on the specific browser you were using and the OS combination. For example, if you take a look at the Chromium-based browser, in the past it will specify the complete version you were using. And at this moment, it's now just giving only the major version. So that was greatly reduce the information. And if you look at the Safari one, it's now spinning the OS version to 10.15.07. So even if you have a lower or a higher version, it will always use that version. Same as for Android, it will now always specify Android 10. And it no longer specifies the device name that's used, or the device type that's used. It now will specify the letter K. So lots of information is reduced, but that can be helpful for finding bots. Because if someone doesn't use this paradigm, it uses other information string than the known combinations, we've probably found a bot. And there are many other client combinations and client hints out there from Chromium-based browsers that aren't that known, but give very much information about the target system and are probably missed when trying to spoof. So we'll first look at the client hints of the user agent versions. And these are very powerful for performing cross-referencing because maybe they spoof the user agent version, but if the Chromium type, major type isn't compatible with the client hint version of the user agent, then there's probably someone spoofing. Or if the full version is missing or isn't compatible with the major version of the user agent string, or if it isn't an exact match with the full version list variant. So performing these cross-references is very powerful for finding possible indicators that someone is spoofing, and maybe your book should block those requests. And there are other interesting parts, because checking the client hints could maybe leak that someone is using a headless Chrome browser. Maybe you should block that as well. There are other client hints that are very interesting to look at. For example, the platform. The user agent, as mentioned, indicates what kind of platform you're using. But if there's a mismatch between the user agent string and this client hint platform, then there's probably a bot as well. There's also a platform version, and for the platform version, those versions are static based on the Windows OS version. And for Linux, they use the kernel version. So if there's a mismatch between the user agent string specifying that it's Windows, but a Linux kernel version is used, probably a bot as well. And another interesting one is the device memory. So if the device memory header indicates that a low version is used, so only 1 gigabyte or 2 gigabytes, you're probably dealing with someone with a virtual machine or a very old user. So also indicator that something strange is probably happening. There are a lot of other parts you could dive into, but one other interesting one is the Yavir header, which is a combination of all requests. But if you just look at the HTTP header count, it's also a possible indicator. If that's too low, it's normally not a browser. So check that out as well. And there's a lot of other parts we could dive into, but this is time I have, and I therefore want to thank you. We have a library, a verification tool, which helps validates these and more. And hopefully you can defend yourself and your infrastructure from bots. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Hi, hello everyone. I am Chetan. I'm a cybersecurity architect and 25 years of industry experience. So today we are going to talk about the AI-driven risk scorecard for the smarter insurance. It is a one size fit for many of the problems. Let's talk about AI-driven risk scorecard. So um, understand the insurance studies, insurance industry challenges are there. So if you see the traditional insurance company still using the static questionnaire and one size fit for all based on the same questionnaire, they are giving the insurance policy to to customer or policy holder, okay, and they do not have the proper risk visibility and pricings, because of the no risk visibility. That's why the pricing is the issue, and risk assessment is very difficult. And majority of the time the problems has happened when the claim is happen. When the claim is happen at the time, some many times the case will go for the dispute, which not good for the customer as well as for the insurer. So this is what the challenge. And this, if you see in one line what why it's happening, the reason is because they do not have the proper profile or dynamic profile of the customer. Now how to we now let's see how AI can help to fix this problem. So we have an approach called, we can create the dynamic or AI driven risk scorecard. So how it's going to help once you have the AI driven scorecard. So how you're going to create, you can have real time data capture from the sources, okay, continuously updating the risk profile, dynamically updating the risk profile, okay, providing the more risk scoring. Based on that, you are providing the risk scoring for every customer has a different need, every customer profile is different profile, so their risk scoring will be different. Based on the risk scoring, you are going to charge the premium to them, as well as you are going to provide the more detail to the customer, okay, and it will help to the underwrite and processing as well. So let's see how the it will help. So once you have data about the customer, okay, so it will help us in better decision making. So this data, How do you collect the data? You can have multiple different tools are there, third-party APIs are there. You can collect the data for every your customers dynamically. Okay, and so AI will analyze this data and will generate the risk scorecard for your customer. So this scorecard will be different for every customer based on their risk profile, based on the current vulnerability, and based on their infrastructure, and it will based on the scorecard it will trigger many actions. Okay, it will share the detail with underwriter, how to provide the quotation, how to charge a premium to this one, pricing alert, and as well as not only this one, it will provide the benefit to the customer also. Like the customer will always come to know about why they are charging the more premium, what is the risk they are identifying in their system or their in their policies, and what's the reason behind that premium, and that premium can be changed further based on that he will take care of the risk. So it will help us the real benefit what we'll see after creating the scorecard. We see the significant improvement in underwriter decision process and more accurate at that, more reactive instead of a reactive approach and handling the claim, reducing the loss and fraud ratios. Okay, more accurate pricing, and because of the customer getting more insight, less claims are happening. So it's a better customer trust and as well as retention is happening. Okay, now this how this the new insurance model is helping us. We are collecting dynamically data. So it's helping us to continuously monitor the risk as well as proactively preventing the claim. Okay, instead of reactive approach, personalized recommendation for each and every customer based on their profile. Okay, and dynamic policy adjustment. This will help to the customer as well as the insurer. This is what the quickly we talked about how the insurance scorecard, AI driven scorecard help to everyone. So AI driven scorecard transform the insurance from reactive to truly smart. That's all for today. Thank you, guys.
Hello everyone, welcome to SecjuiceCON 2026. My name is Harshavardhan Malla. I work in application system security. Today, I want to talk about a taboo topic in our industry, where we are going to discuss what happens when the very rules designed to keep us safe actually introduce more risk into our environments. Let's deep dive into when compliance becomes the threat and look at the real world app security trade-offs we face in a highly regulated systems. We have a core problem in our industry. We treat complaint and secure as if they are the exact same thing, but they are two completely different goals. First, compliance is a lagging indicator. A framework measures what your security posture looked like yesterday or last year when the framework was written. It doesn't measure today's zero-day threats. Second, it becomes audit optimized. We spend months and months of time tuning our controls just to keep the auditors happy, rather than tuning them to actually stop the attackers. Ultimately, this creates a false confidence. Executives see a green checkmark on SOC or PCA reports and assume that the system is impenetrable. But the checking a box doesn't stop a dedicated attacker. Let's look at the first anti-pattern we see in regulated environments, the scanner avalanche. Compliance mandates usually say something like, you must scan all the code of vulnerabilities. So the security teams deploy SAST, DAST, and SCA tools and turn all the rules on. What happens next? Security generates massive noise. You wake up to a Tuesday morning report with 10,000 critical vulnerabilities. We see severity inflation, false positives, and duplicates. Because there is no context engineering that tunes it out, the backlog grows to a point where it's impossible to fix, so the reports get archived unread. The real danger here is that the actual unexploitable threat is the one that will cause the breach, that is hiding right in the noise but looks exactly like the 9,999 false positives that surround it. Anti-pattern number 2 is when compliance breaks your deployment pipeline. This happens when the process protects itself rather than the system. In regulated spaces, we often see build-heavy compliance checkpoints, but these heavy gates stops deploys. They bleed in the velocity of an engineering teams. Worse, the hot fixes wait for boards. Imagine a 0-day vulnerability drops the pipeline patch ready in an hour, but because of the compliance rules, we have to wait 3 days for a change advisory board to approve the deployment. Attackers are not waiting 3 days. When this happens, security becomes the department of no. And the developers are smart. If you block them, they will route around you. You will see a rise of a shadow IT, the side channel of deployments, which makes the company. How do we fix this? How do we satisfy auditors without destroying our security or engineering culture? We pivot to using compensating controls. This is how we legally cheat the compliance. Rule 1. Remember that the frameworks already allow the flexibility. SOC2, NIST, PCI, or if you read the fine print, every major framework permits alternative controls if you can justify them. Rule 2. Document the intent of the rule. Look at the controls that is blocking you. What is actually trying to achieve? Is it trying to identify users, contain blasts, detect malware? Name it. Name the specific outcome. Rule 3. Prove you achieve it differently than others. If you can show the auditor that your alternative, the modern method, achieves the exact same intent as the outdated checklist, they will sign off on it. Let me give you a real-world example of context over checklists. A naive compliance read is force a 90-day password rotation. What if you have a legacy application that can't handle it? Or a service account that breaks every time the password rotates? What happens if engineers start pasting the new password in Slack to keep track of them? The outcome is actually a weaker security posture. Here is the compensating fix. A zero trust proxy with MFA. You put up an application behind a proxy, every request is authenticated and logged. You use phishing resistant MFA on the front end, and short-lived tokens replace those static credentials. If you document this properly, an auditor will accept it. Same outcome, much better security, and you don't break the application. To wrap up, I want to leave you with 3 rules of navigating app security in regulated systems. Number 1. Automate the evidence. If a control requires engineer to take a human screenshot every quarter, this isn't control, it's a core. Build evidence collections into your CI/CD pipelines. Number 2. Push context to developers. Stop sending 80-page PDF reports. Put the security findings directly into the IDE and the pull request where the developments already live. Number 3. Accept the risk out loud. If you can't fix something, document why you didn't fix it. A signed risk exception beats a quiet, undocumented developer. The workarounds that we have every single time. Ultimately, remember, our goal is security's job is to reduce the business risk, not just to collect audit check marks. Thank you so much, SecjuiceCON, for having me. I know we have covered a lot of ground today. You can also connect me on the LinkedIn at the link below. Thanks for your time and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Chetan. Um, I'm a cybersecurity expert and AI architect. Let's talk about today's topic. So today we are going to talk about how we can reform the insurance industry, insurance operation with the help of the AI. So let's jump for the topic. So today's insurance industries, the challenges are there. What we are facing in the insurance industry, if you see, it is basically we are still using the outdated way of the risk assessment. Okay, static questionnaires. Okay, and most of the time the reactive claim approach, like reactively handling the claim. It means we have the reactions happen after the claim is happen, once the incident is occur, and this is always happening because limited visibility of the risk, and this is also one of the things which is impacting, like, and it's slow on the return process, and these are the challenges which are what we have in the insurance operation as of today. AI can help to improve in many areas of the insurance operation. Okay, let's understand this way. Instead of limited visibility of the risk, you could have the real-time risk assessment with the help of AI to improve the system. Instead of static and outdated risk assessment, we could have dynamic risk profiling. Reactive claim handling is to more a proactive claim approach. That means try to provide more detail to the customer so we can prevent the claim, and we could have a more insight about the risk, and we can improve the performance of the overall system. Okay, this is what we can do with the help of the AI. Now the question is about how we can do with the help of AI. So let's jump for the next topic. So AI can collect the data from the multiple sources from the outside. Okay, and based on this one, the AI can predict the risk model. Once we are able to predict the risk model, it can be provide the multiple parameter to underwriter, insurance company, for insurer, as well as for to customer, policyholder, and we can automate this the entire process, so it will help us to improve the overall performance, because now we risk, and we have different risk coverages based on the customer need. One size fit for all will not work here. Instead of static, we have dynamic profile is available based on the new threat, and based on the information it's keep changing, and we are able to provide the customized code to our policyholder. It will not help to only the policyholder, it will help to the insurance company also, because you are providing the more insight about the risk. Based on that, you're charging the premium. Customer, okay, or policyholder is aware about that one, and based on that they can improve and they can reduce the premium. Parallelly, it will be beneficiary for the insurance company, because they are avoiding the claim rather than reacting after the claim. So this is what overall how AI can transform the insurance operation, and we see the result of this one: 78% faster policy issuance. AI helping us with the help of AI. We are issuing the more policy within the same time frame. 40% improvement in the loss ratio and 3x increase in the customer retention. This is what we see the results as of today, and this is what is happening because we are collecting dynamically data. It was helping us to continuously monitoring the risk. Every day we can monitor the risk. Based on that, we can inform to the customer, or accordingly we can change the system. It's more on proactive approach to avoiding the claim. Dynamically we can adjust the policies, and because of all this, customer is getting the more insight. We have better customer engagement. So AI not just is improving the insurance, it is redefining it. Thank you, guys.
Hello everyone, my name is Hemanth Kumar Badugu. Today I am presenting the glass box real-time valuation transparency and the P&L attribution for the capital markets risk control. I come from the finance and data background, working closely with the valuation controls, reporting and the automation. Through that experience, I've constantly seen one core challenge: as the market became more complex, our control framework haven't evolved at the same pace. So today I'll be walking you through how we can rethink valuation control using the modern Azure native architecture. Let's start by framing the problem we all are facing today. Valuation control crisis. Capital markets firms today are operating under increasing pressure, not because control doesn't exist, but because they doesn't scale with complexity. We see four key breakdowns. First, fragmented data, trade, market, model data, live is silo with no unified source of truth. Second, opaque models, output cannot be traced back clearly to inputs. Third, manual controls, spreadsheets-driven workflow introduce latency and subjectivities. And finally, governance gaps, audit readiness became reactive instead of built-in. So these issues isn't just inefficient, it's lack of transparency. And this become even more evident when we have how legacy systems are structured. Let's get into the why legacy architecture fails. Traditionally, architecture is fundamentally built around T plus one mindset. Breaks are identified after the risks have already design. Manual hands-off creates version drifts. Adjustments are often not fully auditable. So we are solving modern problems with the outdated architecture. Instead of adding more controls on top, the question becomes what if we redesign the foundation itself? By this, I can introduce the Glassbox framework. The Glassbox framework is exactly that, a re-architectured validation control layer built to be real-time data-centric and fully auditable. At its core, it has three layers. One, core injection, unified intakes of raw data. Two, SQL data-based model, governized, structured. Three, analytics and audit layer, which is a Python-driven engine producing explainable outputs. And importantly, every valuation the P&L outcome become traceable end-to-end. When developed on Azure, this leverage a scalable data pipeline and centralized data governance and not enough. The real value comes from how we trace it over time. Every data point is versioned over time. This is where the transparency shifts from efforts to design. Coming to a transition of once we have a clean and version data, we can start explaining the P&L properly. Traditionally, P&L explanation involves a lot of manual interpretation. Here we automate it into three components: market effects driven by rates, spreads; trade effects, new trades, maturities, position change; model effects, calibration change, and the parameter updates. Everything is decomposed algorithmically. This removes subjectivity, improves consistency, and enable faster insights. Now, let's get into how now building on that, we validate valuations through structured framework. With that, I would say independent proxy-based methods and level 3 model-based diagnostics. What's the difference here? Is not the concept but the execution. Valuation is automated, traceable, and systematically documented rather than manually assembled. Let's get into the regulatory alignment. These frameworks will align directly with all the regulatories which are required: IFRS 13, ASC 820 fair value hierarchy, and FRTB requirements, structured P&L attribution, and SR Level 7 model risk governance. Each layer of the system produces evidence that is already audit ready. So the compliance is no longer an afterthought. It is embodied into the architecture. Missing or stale data, calibration drift, and cross-model inconsistency. So instead of reacting to the breaks after the fact, we prevent them before they impact financials. And this leads directly into the governance transformation. Traditionally, teams spend significant time building audit packs manually. Here, the governance became automated: valuation records, timestamp override logs, automated expectations reporting, regulatory ready documentation on demand. So the audit readiness became continuous, not a periodic. And once this foundation is in place, we can unlock the more advanced capabilities. Everyone talks about the AI. With this scalable Azure native architecture, we can extend it a reactive cost center to a proactive capabilities. Finally, an ultimate key idea is very simple. When a transparency is built into go and review the article in detail for the internal build for the company or the personal, you can refer to the DOI links and the PDF links, which will be detailedly explained about all the architecture level and design level to implement in the systems. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Good morning. My name is Keithan Raturi, and I am an enterprise architect focused on data privacy and AI, and I'm here to talk to you about guardrail drift. Almost every enterprise is building their AI strategy around frontier cloud APIs from providers like OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google, and we treat the APIs like traditional software dependencies where we pin a version number and we assume that if our code doesn't change, the system's behavior won't change. I'm here to tell you that that assumption is completely false. Cloud LLMs are not static binaries. They are living, breathing, dynamical systems, and the very mechanisms that make them safe for the public make them fundamentally unstable for your critical internal operations. I call this the guardrail drift hypothesis. Let's look at the physics of how this works. An LLM operates in a high-dimensional semantic space. Every time a cloud provider discovers a new jailbreak or faces a new liability threat, they deploy back-end safety patches. They tweak the reinforcement learning, update classifiers, or silently inject system prompts. Think of it like a traction control system in your car. Every update changes how the vehicle handles. Your prompts still technically execute, but the trajectory through the semantic space is shifted. Suddenly, your carefully tuned classification boundary moves. Your extraction prompt starts refusing to output certain formats, but you didn't do anything wrong. The road moved underneath you. Now, to be clear, for certain workloads, guardrail drift is a feature, not a bug. If you're building a public-facing customer support bot or a marketing copy generator, you want the cloud provider constantly updating their safety filters. We can use this as an external safety zone where we trade strict determinism for a liability shield. The vendor absorbs the risk of the latest prompt injection attacks, and if the chatbot slightly changes its tone, it's not a crisis, it protects your brand. The risk profile completely inverts when we talk about internal mission-critical workflows. When you're talking about enriching your healthcare data, algorithmic trading, financial compliance, automated QA, any kind of regulated workflow requires strict determinism, bulletproof audit trails, and semantic stability. If an API safety classifier suddenly flags your medical rag pipeline is sensitive and truncates the reasoning steps, your automated process fails silently. You can't build reliable enterprise architecture on shifting ground. You would never accept a SQL database that changed how it interpreted SQL queries overnight, and you can't accept that for your enterprise AI. The solution is to bring the cognition in-house using open weights models. If you take an open weights models and deploy it on your own infrastructure with your own harness, you own the weights and the control plane. You freeze the semantic baseline. The vendor can't patch your safety layers, and no one can change your prompt routing. You regain reproducibility and auditability, so your clinical or financial pipeline will process data the same way today and 6 months from now. However, that does mean that you have to take ownership of what the cloud vendor does. You have to build harness engineering practices, an operational environment, including memory, guardrails, and tools around the model, and especially a rigorous continuous evaluation stack. You need automated benchmarks and an LLM as judge pipelines that run on every commit Because when you do decide to upgrade that internal model, you need mathematical proof that your semantic baseline hasn't regressed. AI maturity isn't about choosing cloud versus on-prem, open weights versus frontier models. It's about a hybrid architecture where you route your public risk to the cloud and anchor your critical internal reasoning on open weights that you control.
Greetings of the day. This is Anitha Dakamarri. I have 18 years of experience in cybersecurity, mostly into application security, some into network security. I'm also an active volunteer contributor mentor at different organizations like IC2, ISACA, Women in Cybersecurity, CSA, and I'm also mentor in Women for Cyber UK groups. Today, we're going to talk about why and how metrics are important and what are the types of metrics that can be implemented in security, cybersecurity teams to help to measure cybersecurity programs in their organizations. Without further delay, let's get started. So, as I mentioned, security metrics helps to measure security posture of an organization or a program or a product or a project. So let's see how and why metrics really matters. So, most of time when you talk to a business leader, they talk about, budgets, reputations, operational stabilities, and they also talk about, how this product is going to bring the revenue. And when you talk to the cybersecurity teams, they talk about often vulnerabilities, risk, and impact. So when you're trying to explain something to your board, your board members or your executive leadership, you cannot explain saying like, "Hey, we have this critical finding." For example, let's take like we have this NPM security package, and if that package get hacked, and we have like 300 dependencies that is going to impact. This is all too technical. So we need to have something that will translate the technical aspect of security into the business risk, so that leaders can adopt it and understand the impact better. So metrics also proves we can take decisions proactively instead of reactive. Let's take that example, supply chain risk, which I was talking earlier about. Shai Hulud, one of those biggest attack in a supply chain recently. When that happened, like if you know that already, like, hey, we have this all the software packages those are related to NPM in your environment, and if you know that those are very critical and those are obsolete versions of software, you can work on proactive and fix them before something happens, really, before someone trying to attack it. Metrics also helps to prove security is not expensive. It is not definitely an expense category. It is an investment. Without metrics, security is always treated as a cost center. For example, you get some budget and you have to convert that budget to show that using this budget, these many tools, these many solutions we have got into our environment, and we have used it to make better of our environment, to make it robust, make it securely safe. Metrics will help to understand the return of investment on the teams and the solutions that we purchased. And metrics also helps to measure the continuous improvement. For example, last year you have like 2,000 critical findings, and this year you have only 500 findings. That means all your teams together work to fix those 1,500 findings. So that is how you can measure that the security is getting stronger in the organization. As we're talking about metrics, there are a lot many types of security metrics. We're not going to discuss today all of them, but we're going to talk about the coverage metrics, threats and vulnerability, operational metrics, compliance governance, IAM based, and executive board metrics. I'm not trying to say these are the only metrics that you have to use. These are the some types of metrics that helped organizations proven that improved the posture of the applications and infrastructure. Let's take first one, coverage metrics. So if one of your board member came and asking, hey, how many of these critical findings actually have been fixed? You say like 500 fixed. And if they ask a question, okay, 500 fixed on how many assets, how many servers, or how many applications. So making sure, your vulnerability scan, your security scans covering entire infrastructure, entire applications is very important. Every small or medium or a large organizations must have this log monitoring coverage to make sure that who is looking around, who is poking around our infrastructure, our network. So making sure that our log and monitoring solutions integrated with entire infrastructure also equally important. The same way, getting a coverage metrics of how many patch systems we are doing every month, how many incidents we are handling every quarter or every year, and how many accounts we have, how many users we have, and how many of those users actually got the privileged access. So coverage metrics speaks about the entire infrastructure, entire application portfolio, and entire cloud infrastructures of the organization, that how the security teams are covering under the security scanning, how they are tracking that coverage. For example, hey, we have 8,000 endpoints 2 years ago, and this year after optimization we are got into like 4,000 endpoints. So you're making sure you scanned 2 years ago 8,000 endpoints, and now you're also making a point that you're scanning all the 4,000 endpoints. So coverage metrics give you a confidence that everything is covered under the protection. The next one is threats and vulnerability metrics. These metrics very important. So security teams, including application security teams or your infrastructure security scanning teams, your cyber defense teams or your SOC analyst teams, all the teams, the only one job is to find the vulnerabilities, find the risk, find security threats. So when you find those things every day, every week, every year, over the years, you have to measure how many total vulnerabilities we have found in particular this year or this time period. How many new vulnerabilities came? What are the trends? Hey, you see, last year, last month we had total number of critical findings are 100, but this month those are like 200 because we have so many new servers, net new infrastructure being added to our infrastructure, or we have done a new change that brought actually new software or packages into our environment which got new vulnerabilities. So measuring how many vulnerabilities we have found, trends over the vulnerabilities week by week or month by month, whatever it helps you and your organization, and measuring average time that has been taken to fix vulnerabilities. Everything will help to show to the board or to the executive leadership or even for yourself to measure. Okay, being a security team, last year we had this many X number of findings, and this year this many Y number of findings. So this is a good work done in between X and Y to remediate, fix those critical findings. And also you can also get not only vulnerabilities, like if you have any phishing stimulations, you can get those trends saying like, hey, a couple months ago we had so many people who actually fallen for this, phishing stimulations, but after the trainings, user, awareness training, now they're actually reduced. So threats and vulnerabilities and trends and SLA metrics, especially SLA metrics. When I say SLA metrics, you find, when I say you, security teams find vulnerabilities to make sure those get fixed, remediated before attackers get them, right? So, we cannot just, business teams, product and engineering teams have their own timelines. They have they always behind the sprints and adding new features. So we need, being a security organization, GRC or your compliance team will have a policy, a remediation policy, saying like, hey, all the critical findings has to be fixed within 15 days. So making sure, you know fixing within 15 days is ideally sounds good, but sometimes we will have exceptions, like sometimes may say like, this is our freeze time, like we have a critical client onboarding, we cannot fix anything to the product now. So in that case, those findings will not be fixed. So getting those trends, how many findings fixed within the given remediation timelines, SLA timelines, month over month, and we will know where the leadership has to provide some help to get the remediation progress get better. The next one is operational metrics. If you're part of any different cyber defense teams or SOC teams, you better know this, like how much mean time to detect a particular an attack. When the attacker trying to start looking into our infrastructure network, and how much time it took. What is the mean time to detect? What is the mean time to respond or contain that particular attack to isolate from the infrastructure? And how much mean time it took to remediate, resolve that incident? How many false positives we have, how many false negatives, alerts we have. This all will have, how your security monitoring systems are working, teams are working. For example, you had a critical production attack incident a month ago, and it took like 2 weeks to respond, 2 weeks to resolve. That's a lot. So since it is a production, so next time to get better, you have to tweak the process, make it a little faster to make sure, like hey, once we identify within given 24 to 48 hours, we identify, we contain the the incident, and also we the infected server or something like that, and we push the teams to fix it within a given 72 hours. That's how you should respond to any critical vulnerabilities, emerging vulnerabilities, especially in the era of AI. And the next one is compliance and governance metrics. These are also very important because these are all, see, if you look into the vulnerability, the types of metrics that I'm going to talk about, everything is depend on each other, complement each other. For example, if you take threats and vulnerabilities, compliance team, they can say like, okay, so we have 100 findings and 50 fixed and 40 in progress. 10 findings cannot be fixed. Those 10 findings has to go for an exception. So they cannot follow the remediation timeline. So how many findings are actually in the exceptions? So those are your risk metrics. And how many, we talked about coverage metrics. So how many of those actual assets are being scanned? as per SOC 2, as per your ISO audits, you will know that hey, this particular product has 10 10 virtual machines, 5 containers, or 20 endpoints. All those are part of your GDPR, ISO, or SOC 2. What are the complaints that you have in your organization? They're all part of it, and you will know how many of those being scanned, how many of those are being fixed, and what are what cannot be fixed, and how they are in open a risk exception, all that stuff. The next one is IAM based metrics. These are the metrics people think least least considered, but for me those are very important. For example, if you don't know how many people are accessing your application, you never know who has accessed. It's very simple. If you don't know how many of your how many people has an admin level access to your application, you will never know who actually did what they did. So, you must know, hey, this particular product or this particular server has like 20 active users, but among that only 2 admin accounts. One is the product engineering, the other one is the infrastructure. Only 2 admin accounts who can do install or uninstall anything from that particular server. So knowing the privileged access information, accounts information, and also if someone is left the organization, how much time it is taking to terminate the access. So what is the mean time to revoke the access? And also what is the failed login attempts? What are the orphaned accounts? Very important. Like, we want to get some job done. We open some service accounts or principal accounts or admin accounts. Then we left after our job is done. So how many orphaned accounts are there? And very important, how much time, an average time of to provision the new users. So all those metrics helps to get an answer when there is a critical incident that is happening. For example, you found out one of your endpoint is being attacked, and you will know, okay, who has access to actually that particular server, because from the endpoint someone can come inside into the network and access this server, and who has a critical access to that server. So knowing that will help you to take further steps to remediate, contain. The next one is executive and board metrics. Everything that we do, right? Everything, this coverage metrics, threats and vulnerabilities, or GRC metrics, or IAM metrics, everything that we do to provide the visibility to the board members, to the executive leadership, and we wanted to provide the justification, and also we wanted to provide a picture of how the cybersecurity is helping the organization to have a strong, robust, attack-proof environment or infrastructure or network. So we wanted to make sure we provide all that information in a numbers or in understandable numbers, so that those metrics will build the trust between the stakeholders and the board. Next one, how to get effective for the metrics. We talked about why metrics are important. We talked about how many types of metrics are there. We also talked about how each metric will work. Now we're going to talk about how to get effective metrics. You have to define objectives. That is very important for any project or any program. Excuse me. And they have to define what is our strategic goals, what we are trying to do with these metrics. Are we trying to get a justification to the investment that we made? Are we trying to make our program get better? we have to find the objective goals, and we have to tie these metrics to a business impact. For example, saying if this get fixed, these 500 servers has critical findings. If you fix it, we can make the risk from 100% to 10%. You have to show that impact, and we have to make sure we use a benchmark against industry so that this is trusted by even our clients and the external stakeholders. And also, we have to review and update the metrics that we are doing, because always we have new infrastructure, new softwares, new programs, new projects, new products being added to the portfolio. So we have to make sure we have to review and update the metrics in the process. The last thing, the key takeaways from this conversation that I wanted to provide is metrics are not just numbers. If you ever thinking anyone talking about cybersecurity metrics, never think like those are just numbers, because those numbers are the one that is providing a clarity, clarification, picture to your, to the stakeholders how you are doing. And if someone says metrics are not really useful, let them know that you cannot improve what you don't measure. And also, I wanted to make sure you understand collecting so many data is not important, but making that numbers meaningful. Like, I have like so many metrics from each system, each team. I have metrics from SOC team. I have metrics from IAM team. I have metrics from AppSec team. I have metrics from other teams, but I don't know how to use those numbers meaningful to portray the picture that I wanted to. That is a big challenge. And metrics should guide decision, not drown them. That is absolutely. And most importantly, right metrics always can turn raw data into an insight, and always these insights provide actions. So that's all about metrics. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for listening to me. And this is the my LinkedIn. This is the only social media platform I exist. If you wanted to talk about more about metrics or anything related to cybersecurity, please connect with me. Thank you so much. Signing off.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to SecjuiceCON 2026. I am Arun, Cloud Platform Engineer, and my expertise primarily focused on cloud infrastructure management, DevOps, SRE, platform engineering, cloud security. And I'm going to talk about how we can leverage observability-driven reliability practices for building and securing AI agent infrastructure. Yeah. To start with an introduction, so when we talk about AI agents today, it is important to stop thinking about them as simple LLM endpoints. So they are autonomous, distributed execution systems. So they do much more than generate text. So they plan, retrieve context, invoke tools, call APIs, and in many cases, they take actions across many environments. So that means we are no longer operating a single inference service. So we are operating an end-to-end decision and execution pipeline. So, and that changes the infrastructure problem as well. Like, so the challenge is no longer limited to model or LLM quality or response accuracy. And now we also have to consider orchestration reliability, tool and API failures for agents, or unsafe or unintended actions of the agents, data exposure risks, policy violations, even like cost increase. So in other words, the operational surface area broadens significantly, and the consequences of failure become much more severe now. So this is why traditional application monitoring is no longer sufficient as of now. So in conventional systems, we often focus on uptime or infrastructure health and service latency. But in agent systems, failures can be broader. An agent can be available, but still it can be wrong. It can respond quickly and still violate a policy, can complete a task and still create a safety or security governance issue. So the failure domain expands from availability into correctness, safety, security, and control. So this is where the observability becomes much more than a monitoring function solution for conventional infrastructure. So and it becomes the control plane. So to operate these AI agents securely, we need correlated observability across the full execution life cycle of the AI agents. So by correlating traces, metrics, logs, security events, and evaluation signals, we can achieve real-time visibility across the full agent lifecycle. So that gives us the ability to measure reliability, detect abnormal behavior, or enforce security boundaries and operate AI agents in a way that is both trustworthy and resilient. This is the AI agent's operating loop. So before going deeper, let's align on that operating loop. Like an AI agent usually starts with a user intent or any system trigger, then interprets that intent, it creates a plan, retrieves the context it needs, and it invokes an LLM model, calls tools, and evaluates the outputs, and may update the memory or take any action based upon the input. So the important point is that this loop is dynamic and it can change. The path can change based on the retrieved context, model output, policy decisions, or tool responses. So that means the reliability boundary is not a single service endpoint. It is the complete run of the agent. So when we talk about observability in the next slides, we are not only observing the infrastructure. We are observing the agent's reasoning path, the source of context, the permissions it used, the decisions it made, and even the side effects it produced. Next, we'll focus on like why AI agents change the reliability and threat model. So, so the AI agents change the reliability model because they are not just returning generated text. They make decisions across a chain of components like orchestration logic, prompts, memory, retrieval systems, model calls, tools, APIs, and even policy checks. So in a traditional service, we usually ask whether the system is available and check whether and do some health checks, whether the system is performing well or not, and whether the latency is acceptable or even the error rate is within the limits. So with AI agents, that is not sufficient. Okay, the platform can be healthy from an infrastructure perspective, but while the agents produce an incorrect answer, it may like select the wrong tool, and it may leak some information or perform an unauthorized or undesired actions. Um, this also changes the threat model. So the agent's autonomy increases the blast radius of prompt injection, retrieval poisoning, excessive permissions, and compromised tools. So a malicious or malformed instruction may not only influence the response, it may influence an action. So that means every agent step must be observable, and every privilege action must be governed. So the key reliability question becomes: so can we prove what happened, why it happened, which controls were applied, and whether the outcome stayed within the defined reliability and security boundaries? So AI agents turn reliability into a combined problem of distributed systems engineering, security governance, and behavioral evaluation. So in this slide, like we focus on the observability telemetry strategy. Um, it highlights like a core principle for operating AI agents in production environments. So every agent has to run to be queried end to end. So the data or even the how we need to track how the agents works from end to end. So the goal is not just collect telemetry data for dashboards. It is to build a runtime evidence model that lets us reconstruct exactly what happened during a single agent execution. So we want to see who initiated the run, which agent, prompt, and model versions were involved, what tools were called, or what policies were triggered, and how the run agent performed, and whether it stayed within the security and reliability boundaries. So on the left side, we can see the observability telemetry layers that enables this approach. So the metrics provide the key operational signals such as latency, errors, token usage and cost, logs and events, capture prompt metadata, tool arguments, policy decisions, and evaluation outcomes. And the traces show the full execution path across workflow, agent, model, retrieval, and tools. So evaluations add quality signals like correctness, safety, and like task pass rate. And at last, the security signals add identity, access, anomaly, and DLP context. On the right side is the correlation, the agent correlation envelope. It shows the minimum set of IDs and dimensions needed to join all the data. That includes the trace and span IDs, agent run ID, tenant and actor context, versioning fields such as prompt, hash, and model version, and governance fields such as policy decision ID, risk score, and SLA window. So once the correlation is in place, like every agent run becomes reconstructable, explainable, and even it can governed. So this is what turns raw telemetry data into observability-driven reliability. So under the threat and reliability model, we focus on like what needs to be observed from the agent perspective. So one agent runs or queryable, like when we are able to track the activities of the agent, we need to be explicit about like what must be observed. The first category is prompt or context manipulation, where direct or indirect prompts alter goals, tool arguments, or policy interpretation. So the second is the memory or retrieval poisoning, in which untrusted content alters future behavior or contaminates RAG grounding or retrieval augmented generation grounding. And cost and availability failures manifest as token spikes, recursive loops, retries, queue saturation, or even model denial of service patterns. And the other one, like tool misuse and excessive agency occur when an agent involves risky actions, expands scope, or changes tools beyond the intended purposes. And the other one, like inference degradation, includes latency, provider errors, model swaps, or like drift, hallucination, or even the invalid schema output. And at last, the identity and supply chain drift that include like overprivileged tools, stale secrets, unverified package or model provenance, and misconfiguration frameworks. For each category, so we should define the telemetry signal or data, the expected baseline, and the control action when the signal crosses a risk threshold. So in this slide, we can focus on the trace anatomy of an agent run. This shows what an agent trace should contain. So that trace should begin at a request authentication, move through intent classification and policy pre-check, then capture that agent plan and rejected tool candidates or like retrieval query, ACL filtering, model inference, token usage, and much more. So this is not just for debugging. The same trace data support forensics by showing who triggered that agent or who triggered the agent run, which model and prompt version were used, which tools were executed or used, and what changed. So it supports performance debugging by showing where latency, cost, drift, or semantic failure appear. So it provides policy evidence by recording which guardrail, approval, or authorization decision allowed the action. It also supports security direction by surfacing anomalous tool sequences, retrieval sources, or output patterns. So this reference architecture, it shows how we can fit all the pieces together. So users and applications enter through a zero trust ingress layer that handles the authentication, authorization, DLP, and rate limits. Um, and the agent runtime or orchestrator coordinates the planning, execution, and memory. From there, the requests flow through the LLM gateway for routing and evaluation hooks. So through RAG and memory with ACLs, provenance, and trust labels, and through the tool or MCP gateway with schema, scopes, and approvals. So the policy decision point sits in the control plane and evaluates identity, attributes, behavior, and safety policies before sensitive actions can take place. So on the telemetry side, the open telemetry collectors capture metrics, logs, traces, and events. And the run ledger store. Yeah, so the run ledger and the evaluation store preserves the trace aligned evidence. So and the SLO engines, SIEM, SOR systems use that are used for the burn rate analysis and detections. And at last, the remediation, the closes the loop with the rollback, quarantine, read-only mode, and or other remediation actions. So the architecture separates the planes like execution, control, tools, telemetry, and remediation planes, but keeps them connected through the correlation IDs and the policy decisions. So this slide shows what are all the SLOs that we can define for AI agents. So for agents, SLOs need to extend beyond the uptime. So availability is not simply whether the service is responded. It is whether the eligible agent ran successfully or not. So latency should measure end-to-end task time with different expectations for simple and multi-step workflows. And the next one, the cost. So it needs its own SLI, such as the 95th percentile cost per successful run, because the token burn and repeated calls can become a production instance. And the other one is the correctness. This can be measured through the task evaluation pass rate, and then the groundedness measured whether the checked claims are so supported. And the other one is the safety can be tracked as one minus the unsafe output or unsafe action rate. And the tool conformance assesses whether the tool's calls were valid, policy checked, and authorized. So each SLO needs an action attached to it, and the goal is to make the SLOs actionable. And this is the operational life cycle. So it combines the security evaluation and the SRE practices. So the operational lifecycle shows how security evaluation and SRE practices should be integrated rather than just treated as separated workflows or work streams. So in design, we define the threat model, SLOs, tool scopes, and data classification. In the build phase, like we instrument the guardrails, policy hooks, and audit schemas. And under evaluation, we run tests, trajectory evaluations, and even we perform the load or cost tests. So in the deployment, we can use canaries, feature flags, and versioning of LLMs and prompts and rollback plans. And in the run phase, we can monitor the SLO alerts, perform the anomaly detection, or enforce the anomaly detection, and also implement a budget awareness. So in the learning phase, we feed the data for incidents into postmortems, data set refreshes, policy updates, and evaluation drift reviews. So the gates at the bottom are the control points. So there is release gates before production, runtime gates during execution, and the learning gates after incidents. So this is how agent operations become continuously governed. So in this slide, we'll focus on the how the detection occurs. How we can detect using observability, and we just need to focus on the alert on behavior, not just errors. So detection should focus on behavior. In agent systems, a successful request can still be unsafe, or it can be incorrect. So we need the alerts that reflect meaningful changes in behavior. Here, two velocity spike indicate a loop or unexpected automation, and the privilege drift may show that tool scopes or credentials have expanded beyond what was approved. The retrieval anomalies can expose poisoning, unauthorized context, or unusual use of sources. And the memory mutation spike may signal unintended persistence or contamination. Token burn rate anomalies indicate cost and availability risks. Policy block searches can reveal attempted misuse or bad releases or prompt injections. And the evaluation drift tells us the agent's production behavior that is like drifting away from the tested or the baseline expectations. The value comes from the correlation. So these signals should be joined to run IDs, actors, policies, tools, prompts, and model versions. So the alert explains the behavior rather than just simply reporting as a noise or just an alert. So how the automated remediation works? How we can reduce the autonomy when the risk increases? So automated remediation should reduce autonomy whenever the risk increases. The response does not have to jump immediately from normal operation to shutting everything down whenever a risk occurred. So the first step is to observe. We can increase the sampling and capture redirected evidence. Next, they constrain the workflow by lowering the max steps, capping tokens, and forcing citations. If risk continues, supervise by requiring approval or human in the loop review. Then isolate the affected tool or memory store or MCP server to contain the blast radius. So if the issue is tied to a release, uh, roll back the prompt, model, tool, registry, or policy. Finally, the kill switch disables the agent workflow while preserving the forensics ledger. So the important principle is that the remediation should be policy driven and reversible wherever is possible. We want the system to degrade safely, maintain evidence, and preserve trust while while operators can investigate. So this is the implementation roadmap. So this roadmap turns um, the framework into an implementation sequence. So in the first, maybe like in the 30 days, like can focus on instrumentation, where we can define the agent run IDs and trace taxonomy, capture model, tool, RAG, and guardrails, redact and classify prompt and tool payloads, and start dashboards for latency to track the latency, cost, and tool errors. And after like 30 days, we can focus on the SLOs and controls, publish latency, cost, correctness, and safety SLOs, add budget burn alerts and sampled evaluations, and require approval for high impact actions, like requiring human approval to initiate any high risk actions. And after 60 days, like we can begin automation to enforce policy based on budget, burn on risk score, add anomaly detection and SIEM correlation, automate and containment and rollback playbooks. And we can also create feedback loops from postmortems back into the evaluation data sets. So the intent is to move deliberately from visibility to enforcement without skipping the evidence layer. Yeah. So to close it up, the central message is that secure AI agent infrastructure requires observability, reliability, and governance to work together. So agent systems create value because they can plan, retrieve, and act. But those capabilities can create operational risks. So we cannot manage those risks with just uptime dashboards or alerts. We need to trace the agent runs. We need the correlated security and evaluation signals, actionable SLOs, behavior-based detection, and even remediate to reduce the autonomy whenever the risk occurs. So when those practices are built into the architecture, observability becomes more than just monitoring. It can become a safety and control system for AI agents. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me at SecJuice. My name is Ashish Bhatti, and for the next 15 minutes, I want to talk to you about a problem that almost every security team has, but almost nobody measures and almost nobody has a good tooling for: configuration drift on a Microsoft Defender and a small open source framework that I built. It's called DCAT that tries to do something about it. This title tells you the whole thesis. We're going to treat Defender hardening not as a one-time deployment, but as a code, reversible, auditable, and version control code. So let's start. Let's dig in. Here's the gap that motivated the whole project. The most security teams I talk to can tell you in detail what their endpoint protection is supposed to do. They have a baseline, they have a CAS document, they have an Intune profile. Far fewer of them can tell you with evidence what the endpoint protection is actually doing right now on the fleet, and whether the gap between those two things is growing or shrinking over the last 90 days. That gap between the intended state and the observed state is the entire topic of this talk. Um, Now, when we say an endpoint is configured, what we usually mean is that at some point in the past, a baseline was applied, a CAS benchmark, Microsoft security baseline, or a vendor recommended config. It was pushed out, verified once, and then handed off to the ID operations. That's the ceremony. But configuration is a verb, it's not a noun. It's a state that has to be maintained, and most of the industry tooling and documentation treats it like one-time event. Nobody sets out the drift. Drift happens through accumulation. Somebody disables tamper protection on a subset of endpoints so third-party AV agents can coexist. Somebody flips an, say example, ASR rule from block to audit to troubleshoot a compatibility issue, and then the ticket closes and never reverted. A real-time protection exclusion gets added to quiet a performance complaint on a file server, and then it propagates through scope via group policy. Each of those is a reasonable local decision. Stacked together over a year, they are how you end up with a control that exists on a paper but only partially in practice. Let's make that concrete. Four scenarios, all of them ordinary, all of them things I have personally seen in production environments. Number one, an ASR rule defined as a block, quietly set to audit during troubleshooting, never reverted. Tamper protection disabled on a subset of endpoints for agent coexistence. Real-time pro- Real-time protection exclusion that propagated through scope. Co-management conflicts where Intune or MECM apply overlapping policies and nobody's sure which one has won. None of these are exotic. These are ordinary configuration entropy, and from an auditor perspective, it's actually worse than having no control because it creates a false compliance posture. You might ask reasonably, why doesn't the security stack catch this? We have all kind of tools such as SIEMs, we have EDR telemetry, we have Defender XDR. The answer is simply that those tools are designed to detect threats, and they're not designed to monitor configuration states. Defender XDR will surface threat signal and incident data beautifully. It will not natively alert you when an ASR rule enforcement mode changes from block to warn, a shift that meaningfully alters your attack surface without generating a single threat event. Configuration state is a blind spot in most shops. So, what would it actually take to close the gap? I argue you need three things. The most current tool chains give you one or two, not all three. Number one, a versioned, authoritative, definite definition of what the intended configuration is. Number two, a continuous or at least scheduled mechanism to measure actual state against the definition. Number three, a safe, tested pathway to remediate deviation without introducing any new disruptions. If you are missing any of these, the other two are materially weaker. Requirement 3 is rollback. Is one of the easy that's one of the easiest to underestimate, and that's the one that actually unlocks the other two in practice. Security teams in production are rightly cautious about automated remediations. An aggressive enforcement mechanism that silently re-enables a blocked ASR rule can break legitimate business workflow. Fear of disruption leads to hesitation, which means that even when you detect drift, you don't fix it. But if remediation is structured in a reversible operation, if there's a known recovery path, the calculus changes. Teams are far more willing to enforce when they can demonstrate a safe reversion is available. The model I'm advocating is policy as code. This isn't a new idea in cloud. Um, eh, Things like Terraform, Azure Policy, AWS config rules, they already exist, but it's less frequently applied to endpoint security configurations. Applied to Defender, it means you define your requirement in a machine readable format, a JSON manifest, a PowerShell data structure. You commit it to a version control. Then you use automation to apply, evaluate, and if needed, a rollback. PowerShell is actually a natural fit here, because it has some of the switches to manage Microsoft Defender already exists, such as set MP preference, get MP preference, get get MP computer status, etc., which gives you programmatic access to Defender state out of the box. This is the toolkit I built on top of the model. I've named it DCAT, which stands for the Defender Control and Audit Toolkit. It's open source. It lives on GitHub. The link is in the next slide, or it should be in the end of the slide. Rather than shipping a fixed hardened configuration and leaving deployment to practitioner, DCAT structures the whole process around four explicit auditable phases. Phase number one is called capture. Phase 2 is apply, phase 3 is score, and phase 4 is rollback. And in the next few minutes, I want to talk to you about each phase briefly. So phase 1 is called baseline capture. Before you change anything, you snapshot the current state of the defender on a target. Every preference, every ASR rule, mode, every exclusion, every real-time setting. That snapshot is saved as a structured artifact, timestamped, version, defiable. This is one thing you compare future state against. It's also critical, the things you'd roll back to if something goes wrong. No snapshot, no rollback. Phase 2 is the policy application. You take a baseline manifest, you can have your own custom, or you can have a CAS aligned, and you apply it to it. The application is scripted, idempotent and logged. Every change is attributable. You're not clicking through any GUIs. You're not trusting a group policy to merge correctly. You're simply executing a defined set of changes against a known starting state and recording what happened. Next phase 3, is one of the most I am proud of, which is this phase is simply called compliance scoring. Most compliance tooling gives you a binary results, either compliant or non-compliant. That's operationally useless. An endpoint, say with the 94% configuration compliance against CS level 1, is in a meaningfully different risk state than say the one which has 40% or 60%. But a binary report treats them the same. DCAT produces a code results output. It tells you which controls are aligned, which have drifted, and by how much. That granularity is what what lets you prioritize. Phase 4 is one of the most important. It's called rollback. If your changes introduce any regression, if the help desk queue lights up, if a business unit escalates, you have a clean path home. The baseline from phase 1 is your safety net. Recovery is scripted operation. It's not an archaeological dig through change tickets. This is the future that makes phase 2 and 3 uh, psychologically safe to deploy in production. Without rollback, enforcement is scary. With rollback, enforcement is just a change you can undo. Now, let me illustrate why this matters with a case study. Attack surface reduction rules. Microsoft provides 16 attack surface reduction rules in Defender for endpoint. Each rule has 3 modes: off, audit, and block. The CAS Windows 11 benchmark maps a subset to specific CAS levels and MITRE techniques. On paper, it's tidy. In practice, organizations they end up with patchwork. Some rules in block, some rules in audit, some disabled, spread across GPOs, Intunes, and local overrides that may or may not align. A security team that can't enumerate ASR enforcement state across their fleet with confidence cannot accurately assess their exposure to living off the land techniques. That's a visible problem before it's a compliance problem. Versioning ASR rules states tracking enforcement mode changes as auditable event turn this from an informal operational practice into a governed change process. This also connects directly to Zero Trust. NIST 800-207 describe policy decisions points and policy enforcement points that evaluate device trust being granting access. Device health is a key input, but the signal that typically feeds device trust, MDM compliance status, attestation, EDR health, generally don't capture whether the security tool itself is correctly configured. An endpoint can report as compliant to Intune while running with degraded Defender coverage because someone added an exclusion 3 months ago. The compliance signal is technically accurate and practically misleading. If you are doing a zero trust and you're not feeding Defender configuration state into your trust scoring, you are operating on an incomplete picture. The audit and forensic payoff is substantial. When baselines and version and compliance evaluations are logged, auditors get artifact-based evidence, a factual record of control state over time, not an in-point time screenshot taken during audit windows. That matters for SOC 2 type, FedRAMP continuous monitoring, or NIS2 in Europe frameworks that require evidence of control operating effectively, not just being implemented. And for the incident response, baseline versioning gives you a reference point to determine whether observed configuration changes are an attacker disabling security, which is known ransomware pre-deployment technique, or a legitimate admin change. The difference between these two scenarios are enormous implications for scoping and containment, and the determination is much harder without a known good baseline. Now, I want to be honest about the constraints. The approach is not a magic wand. Co-management complexity is real. If you have both Intune and MECM or group policy applying policies, automated enforcement needs to detect conflicting policies, conflicting policy sources, or you'll end up in a remediation and drift loop. PowerShell deployment is itself an attack surface. Scripts that modify security operations with elevated privileges need to be signed, deployed through a managed channels, and protected against tampering. The governance framework cannot be less rigorous than a control it manages. And in the air-gapped or OT environments, the assumption of connectivity to a management server may not hold. DCAT supports offline capable configurations, exports for exactly this reason, but practitioners should plan for integration work. So here's the question I want to leave the room with. It's not, is Defender configured correctly today? Any team can answer that with the screenshot. It's, do you have a process in place to know when it stops being? Because it will stop being. Drift is ordinary. The discipline in this detection is and reversal, not the initial deployment. If you're at any stage of Defender and deployment maturity, try DCAT. It's an open source. It lives on the GitHub. The link is in the screenshot here and the presentation slide here. Clone it, capture the baseline from test endpoints, run a compliance score, and see where your fleet actually stands. And any feedback and contributions are welcome. The goal of this project is to make auditable Defender hardening accessible without specialized tooling dependencies. And that was the presentation, guys. And a quick word about me, and then I'll wrap it up. My name is again Ashish Bhetty, and I'm a senior systems engineer with over 20 years of experience across Australia, Canada, and US. My current work is in broadcast system security. I work for a live news and sports TV environment, which is an interesting mix of enterprise and operational technology. I research zero trust, AI assisted threat detection, security governance in OT context, and DCAT is one of my open source side of that work. Other than that, I also contributed to ISACA's employment committee, and I also volunteer with Cyber Peace Institution, where I help different organizations who cannot afford cybersecurity. I help them out with their needs. And if you want to get in touch, the easiest way is to get in touch using the GitHub link I provided before. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, thanks for having me today. We are going to discuss about advanced rootkit detection via memory forensic. As you know, there are a dozen types of malware out of there: ransomware, crypto miner, infostealer, banker, wiper, and so on. And each of them have their own capabilities, mechanism, and stealthy. But none of them is like a rootkit. So I have decided to design this presentation for security researcher, incident response team, and SOC analyst, also malware reverse engineer, to know how to handle the rootkit case and how to remove from the system and recover into the clean state. A brief introduction about me: I'm Dr. Sayali from Kurdistan, Iraq. I'm 24 years old, security researcher, spoken in many international conferences such as Black Hat, Theacon Party, beside Budapest. Arab Cybersecurity Conference, DeepSec, COSAC, and also the VuluCon from India. Well, the main question is what's a rootkit and why rootkit? Well, rootkit is a malicious software like any kind of the other malware, but that hides its presence to gain unauthorized access. Okay? Well, usually, when you're infected by a ransomware, you see a dark background says your computer has been infected. If you don't pay a ransom, we will sell your data on the dark web or in an underground market. If you're infected by InfoStealer, you may notice that your account passwords changed because InfoStealer is stealing your credential. If you're infected by the crypto miner, you may notice that your computer are slower than before. But for rootkit, you don't have any kind of the symptoms. Actually, rootkit use it to maintain undetected access for stealing data or installing other software. Well, each type of malwares may have loader and downloader or stager mechanism to stay undetectable on your machine or have multiple backdoors or for evade detection, and rootkit is one of them. And also, the rootkit is conscious malicious activity to avoid detection. Well, each process in a operating systems, you can easily see it and look on it by using tools like a task manager, process hacker, process explorer, and so on. But actually, for rootkit, there are no process presence in a user land. You have to use a specific toolkit to detect it and reveal the hidden process, and we will gonna discuss about it. And actually, rootkit require specialized tools and technique for detection and removal, and crucial for system integrity. Well, in the past, there are some tools that designed for detecting a specific type of rootkit, like a TDS killer by Kaspersky or Gmer, but they are designed for a specific type of rootkit, not all of them. And actually, detection is a critical to maintain system activity, security, and protecting sensitive data. The rootkit life cycle. Well, each malwares have their own life cycle actually. For rootkit, first of all, infection and deployment, and actually privilege escalation to obtain kernel access and hide their own process or hide their own process. And this technique called DCOM, direct kernel object manipulation technique. And then privilege escalation again and command and control. So the malwares need to communicate with the C2 channel to stealing data to sending a command onto the infected machine. Well, the command and control actually is a sender and receiver channel between the attacker and infected machine actually, in a simple term. And the final stage is malicious actions like altering or unlinking entire e-process to hiding their activity. So the rootkit can stay on your operation system on your infected machine in a user mode and in a kernel mode. Well, actually, we have a user mode and we have a kernel mode. So the user mode is a normal application and normal utilities and normal graphical stuff that you see on your operating systems, like applications. But kernel mode is a high level. You are working with the operating system structure. Well, in a user mode rootkit, the, the rootkit lives on application level files and modify standard system utilities. And actually, In the stealthy side, the user mode rootkit lower and easier to detect and remove. But in a kernel mode side, the rootkit lives on operating system kernel, own, modify or replace kernel modules and drivers. But the technique is highly stealthy and harder to detect. In most cases, require dumping the memory, the RAM, on an infected machine and using tools like a MIMPROGFS, Recall, Cyber Triage, or Volatility to investigate further. Well, rootkits have their own different technique and mechanism to stay undetectable on your operating system. One of them is um, altering e-process and hiding there from uh, normal utilities. Because as I mentioned it, um, you can look at any kind of the process on your operating system, but for rootkit side, it's not possible. You cannot use task manager. You cannot use process hacker. You cannot use process explorer, process monitor, and so on, because the process is hidden actually. Well, the chain of hiding process from e-process is, first of all, gain a kernel access. Rootkits loads into the ring 0. We have a ring 0, ring 1, ring 2, ring 3, and so on. Sorry, I think it's only 3 rings, but the ring 0 is the highly privileged one. So ring 0 means you are working on a kernel land. And then find address of its own e-process structure. Well, e-process is a kernel structure that represents data about the running processes, like a process ID, process name, modules, handles, virtual memory, and so on. Well, actually, you can see it as a database of own process. In a database, actually, you have all information: ID, name, age, phone numbers, and so on. Well, in an e-process, it have information about uh, their own processes. Okay, because in a Windows internal side, each process have their own heap, stack, loaded module, and virtual memory resources, PID, and name, so on. And then locate the forward link and backward link pointer in a list entry from the e-process structure. And one of the main important question how this rootkit is performing the DCOM, direct kernel object manipulation technique. Well, it simply changes value of filling and billing to remain undetectable. Or in a technical terms, a change filling of previous process to next and change billing of next processes to previous. And finally, process is hidden, invisible to user mode tools, and still active in memory. And we move into the demo. Well, I have decided to use two tools, BIMPROGFS and Volatility. That's a query, vol.py, infected kit.row, and windows.modules. Well, in this side, we have rootkit.sys from the hidden path, and we have a decom.sys from the hidden path. But actually, we have something interesting called uh, sys from the temp directory. It's quite suspicious that why a driver should be loaded from the temp directory. And from this MinProg side, as you can see from the object root drivers, we have the urtica.sys, our suspicious driver. Well, that's our table of indicator. We have a rootkit.sys from the hidden path, and we have a decom.sys from the hidden path. Also, we have a uditakas.sys from the temp directory. It's quite suspicious, and that's their own addresses actually. Well, you can actually enumerating the drivers from the registry key. Actually, the registry is a database of entire Windows operating system information. Well, actually, from this query, windows.registry.print and control set 001 service, we have something interesting called uartica.sys. And from the minprog fs side, we have also the same one. You can look it on the right side. Well, again, the image path of uartica.sys, again, it's a local term uartica.sys from the registry print key. Well, I have decided to dump the uartica.sys through windows.modules and / name, hyphen name, uartica.sys -- dump. When decide to upload onto the virus total, you can see the Trojan rootkit Windows, Win32 dot blah blah blah. So actually, it's a clear that a rootkit. You can use this query to dump the suspicious driver name through a volatility, but if you use a minprog fs, it's a quite easier. You can just drag and drop. Well, I have decided to use a vol shell. Okay, it's a shell mode on volatility framework for memory forensic purpose. I have decided to search for uartica.sys in entire operating systems and from using modules like a mod scan and driver scan, also importing the module section as appear from the side. And uartica.sys is available over there. Well, from the event log, we can see something that interesting. So service name uartica.sys and file name from the temp directory, and service type kernel mode driver, so it's not a user line, and actually daemon star. Well, that's quite suspicious actually. And you can look at on the right side from the params, device hard disk volume 2 users has been updated and local term uartica.sys. That's quite interesting. So actually, the event viewer, it's a software, it's a utility entire from the Windows operating system. You can look at for entire activity that you are done and you are doing for your operating systems, like a creating file, open the process, or sometimes when you install the software, it show that software is created. I'm sorry. In a second demo, there are something interesting. A txplatform.exe from System32 TX platform. That's quite suspicious because there are no software names like this actually in a System32 path. Well, it load the drivers called QA assist, and actually QA assist from the driver modules is available through a volatility. When upload into the virus total, actually it's a rootkit. And that's all about our presentation. I hope you are learning something new.
Welcome, everybody, to the SecjuiceCON 2026. I want to say a big thank you to the SecJuice team for the opportunity to present. So let's dive right into it. But before we go deep, I'd like to tell you about a conversation I had not long ago with the Chief Information Security Officer of a mid-sized financial technology company. Now, they've done everything right. Okay. Shift left was fully embedded. Static application security testing was in their pipeline. Software composition analysis was running on every PR. Their developers were trained. Threat modeling was baked into their sprint ceremonies. Their AppSec program was, by any reasonable benchmark, mature. Now, 6 weeks after their last, penetration test gave them a clean bill of health, they had a security breach. Now, what happened? A runtime manipulation of a business, logic flow that no pre-deployment scanner ever touched, because it only existed when three microservices talk to each other in a very specific sequence under production load. Now, you cannot reproduce that in a staging environment. You cannot catch that in a build, at a build time. Now, that conversation stuck with me because it wasn't a failure of tools or of people or even of process. It was a failure of mental model. The model that says security is something you do before you ship and then you're done. I've spent the last several years working across fintech, headtech, insurance, cloud infrastructure, and defense across different continents, building, breaking, and advising on application security programs. And the single most consistent thing I've found is this: the organizations that get breached, despite doing all the right things, are operating on a model that is fundamentally incompatible with the speed and complexity of modern software delivery. So today, I want to introduce you to a different model, one I call, from shift left to shift everywhere, and I want to show you exactly what it looks like to put it into practice. Now, a little context before we dive in. This is who I am. All right. I'm a principal cybersecurity consultant with a couple of certifications to my belt. All right. The breadth of my experience has given me the strong, allergy to one one size fits all, security framework. Because in my experience, they almost never fit anyone. Okay. So yeah, enough about me. Let's go into it. Now, the checkpoint illusion. Okay. Shift left, move the gates. It didn't remove it. Shift left, move the gates. It didn't remove it. Now, let me explain, what that means to you in context. Now, the statistics. Let me bring this out. Great. Now, the stats you're seeing here. Okay. Says, the 68% of organizations with mature shift left programs still suffered critical breaches. Now, I want to sit with that for a moment because that number should fundamentally disturb us. These are not organizations that ignored security. They are the ones, they're not the ones skipping, threat models or deploying without scanning. These are organizations that went through the effort, spent the budget, hired the people, and did the work. And they still got breached. Now, the question that statistic forces us to ask is why? And the answer, when you dig into, incident reports, is almost always, some variations of the same thing. The breach happened somewhere, the checkpoints didn't cover. Runtime, post deployment, they didn't catch them. Now, in the intersection between systems, okay, in a configuration drift that happened 3 weeks before or after a penetration test, in a dependency that got updated silently by an automated process, in a feature flag that opened an attack vector in production that never existed in staging. Now, the checkpoint model assumes that if you validate the software before it ships, you've secured the software. But software doesn't stop changing when it ships. Configurations change, dependencies get updated, traffic patterns expose logic flaws that only appear under specific conditions, and the threat landscape shifts overnight. Now, and here's the second problem, which is arguably more urgent. Now, your pipelines, got faster. Deployment frequency has doubled and in many organizations tripled in the last 5 years. Now, if you're running CI/CD at any reasonable cadence, you are shipping multiple times a day. Now, every one of those deployment changes your attack surface, and your AppSec team is still working off the same quarterly penetration test cadence they've had since 2018. Now, that is not a people problem, that's a model problem. Now, the other point here is the gate model persist. Now, I believe it's a conceptual crux because shift left, as it has been practiced by most organizations, didn't replace the gate model. It just moved the gate earlier. Okay, you still think of security as a phase, a box you tick before you are allowed to proceed. The gates just sit earlier in the pipeline now with a different sign on it. Now, I am arguing that today rather, that we need to get rid of that gate entirely, not move it. Okay, remove it completely and replace it with something continuous. Now, the real problem now, it's not about when you shift, is that you are still shifting. Okay, it's not about when you shift, is that you are still shifting. Now, the word shift left, okay, or the word shift itself, okay, is the problem. Now, because shifting implies moving toward a destination. You shift something from one place to another, and implicit in that framing is the idea that once you have shifted far enough, once you have moved security early enough in the life cycle, you've arrived somewhere. You've solved it. Now, security is not a destination, it is a state that requires continuous maintenance. Now, the moment you treat it as something you achieve, you've already started losing. Now, let me walk you through the comparison. Okay? Now, on the left here, okay, the current states of most organizations, you have security as, at the checkpoint, just earlier than it used to be. You have an annual, pen test, an AppSec boiled into, your DevOps and SRE, speaking different languages. You measure, different things. You get reviews. Okay, you track your remediation. You know, your confidence metrics is how vulnerabilities you've closed this quarter. All right, that's your security scorecard. Now, think about what that metric actually measures. Now, it tells you how fast your team can respond to findings from the last assessment. Now, it tells you nothing about what's happening in production right now. It tells you nothing about whether a new deployment introduce a regression. It tells you nothing about whether your threat model, okay, from 6 months ago still reflects in your current architecture. It is a lagging indicator, measuring activity rather than posture. Now, looking at the right column here, okay, this is shift everywhere, and that's what I'm talking about today. Okay, security as an ambient infrastructure, continuous assurance. Okay, your AppSec, your DevOps, SRE operating as a unified discipline rather than three teams that occasionally email each other. Okay, you have your automated embedded feedback loops where you are finding surface. All right, your security findings are real time, not in a report that lands 3 weeks after a pen test window closes. And you are able to measure your security as well. Your metrics, they shift fundamentally. Your main time to remediate, okay, tells you how fast you respond to live findings. Your security SLOs tells you whether your runtime security posture is within acceptable bounds. Okay, um the SLO, burn rate tells you whether you are trending towards a breach before the, breach happens. Now, these are, leading indicators that give you, time to act. Okay. Now, moving ahead in letting you know that security is Oh yeah, I need to clear this. Yeah. To let you know that security isn't a gate, okay? It's an ambient infrastructure. It's an ambient infrastructure. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, let me give you a definition. Shift everywhere is the embedded security. It's you embedding security intelligence, controls, and verifications across the entire software lifecycle. So from design to deployment to runtime operations, continuously and without interruption. Now let me break that down for you. Now, okay. Now, security intelligence, not just tools. Intelligence means contextualized information that informs decision. It means knowing which vulnerability matter given your specific architecture. Okay. Um, Given your specific architecture, your threat model, and business risk profile. An AI assisted triage that surfaces a critical finding is intelligence. A SaaS tool that dumps 3,000 low severity alerts into a queue is a noise. Now, the distinction matters enormously, all right, when you are operating at scale. Now, control. These are the things that prevent or detect harm. Okay. Verification, of course. I mean, this is the piece most organizations get wrong. Okay. Verification in the shift left model is periodic. You run a scan, you get a report, you verify against that report. But in the shift everywhere model, verification is continuous. Every change is validated, every deployment is policy checked, every runtime anomaly is captured and fed back upstream. Verification is not an event, it is a state. Okay. So, um, moving ahead, um, the continuous AppSec model, security at every layer, every stage, every moment. Now, um, six stages, six stages. And I want to be clear about something before I walk through them. These are not sequential, they are concurrent. Okay? They all run simultaneously in a mature shift left organization. But let me take you through the logic of each one. Now, stage one, design. Now, threat modeling as a code, where you have, couple of things in place. Now, I want to spend a moment here because this is where most organizations are still doing it wrong. Now, threat modeling as a workshop, okay, a room full of people with sticky notes happening once at the start of a project is better than nothing. But it's not shift everywhere. Now, in the model I'm describing, okay, your threat model is a versioned artifact. It lives in your repository. It updates when your architecture diagram updates. Tools like OWASP, Threat Dragon, Iris Risk, and Deciduous, okay, let you define threat as structured data that can be linted, diffed, and integrated into your CI pipeline. When an architecture decision record gets merged, your threat model gets updated automatically. That's what threat modeling as code means in practice. Now, stage two, code. Okay, SAST, secrets detection, software composition analysis. Now, I want to stress, the phrase on the slide. Okay, advisory first. One of the most common mistakes I see organizations make when they instrument their pipelines is going straight to blocking. They had a SaaS scan and configure it to fail, the build on any findings, and they wonder why developers hate the security team. Advisory means, you instrument for visibility before you instrument for enforcement. Now, you let the data tell you what the real signal to noise ratio is. You tune your rules, and then when you have developer trust and tuned tooling, you move to blocking on the things that actually matter. SemGrep, SonarCube, GitLeak, Checkoff, Snake codes. These are your instruments. Do not weaponize them before you understand what they are telling. Okay, stage three, you know, stage three here, okay, is S-bomb generation, which is no longer optional. In a world of supply chain attacks, it means, your CI runners are ephemeral, okay, your secrets are merged properly, your build artifact are signed, okay. S-bomb for stage three. Okay, stage four, deploy. Okay, policy as a code. Okay, OPA or Kaivano, IEC scan and Chekhov or Terascan. If you are deploying infrastructure that hasn't been scanned for misconfigurations, you are deploying on no risk. Okay, admission control in Kubernetes means a non-compliance workload cannot be scheduled. Full stop. Okay, not shouldn't be, cannot be. Okay, that's the difference between a recommendation and a control. Step five, is runtime. Okay, this is the stage shift left almost entirely ignores. It's where most modern breaches actually happen. Okay, RASP, yeah. Okay, where you have runtime application self protection. This is the instrument your application, okay, so that your application uses to detect and block attack from inside the running process. Okay, and lastly, observe. Of course, this is the one that actually closes the loop. Okay, continuous feedback flowing, upstream. An organization operating at level three maturity has a security dashboard that looks a lot like site reliability dashboard. Okay, so when something fails in production, the finding doesn't just go up to a ticket queue, it goes to the next sprint. Okay, the loop never closes, and that's exactly the point because threats don't close either. Now, um, moving ahead, okay, we want to break the silos. Okay, now the life cycle is what? Now the two chain is how, but neither of those matters because if people who are supposed to operate this model are working in organizational silos, that prevents them from sharing information, aligning on metrics, or moving at the same speed. So the hardest shift part of shift everywhere is not technical, it's organizational. Now looking at this diagram, platform engineering sits at the center. Okay, not AppSec, not the CISO, platform engineering. Why? Because shift everywhere model. Okay, in that model, security is a property of the platform, and platform engineering teams own the platform. Okay, now moving ahead, a word on AI. Now, I want you to spend a lot of time, observing how AI has been transforming the industry lately. Now, because it is the question I get asked more than any other right now, and I want to give you an honest answer rather than a vendor-friendly one. The wrong question is, I see organizations asking constantly, is what does AI do to security? This question leads to a very predictable chain of events. Someone in leadership gets excited about AI powered security tooling. There is a procurement conversation, and 3 months later, the organization has an AI powered SaaS scanner and an AI powered vulnerability prioritization tool, and is still running quarterly pen tests, new tools, same broken model. And the AI has made the checkpoint prettier. Okay, it hasn't removed it. Okay, so the right question is, what does AI do for continuous AppSecOps? Okay, now moving ahead, where are you on the ladder? Okay, where are you on the ladder? Now, before I tell you what to do next, I want you to locate yourself because the prescription depends entirely on the diagnosis. And the most common mistake I see organizations make is applying level 3 solution to a level 1 problem. Now, level 1 reactive. Okay, the diagnostic here is simple. How does the organization find out about a security problem? If the answer is when something breaks or when the report comes in, you are at level 1. Now, level 2 is shift left. If you have a SAST and SCA running in your pipeline, You conduct security reviews, threat modeling periodically. You have security gates before deployment. This feels like progress, and it is, but you are still in the checkpoint model. Your confidence is still points in time. Your runtime is still largely a blind spot. Now, the telltale sign of level 2 organization is that their AppSec, team is busy, very busy, constantly busy, because the volume of findings from pre-deployment scanning is high. Okay. In many cases, it's a sign that the model isn't working. Now, level 3, which is shift everywhere, always in control, security SLOs, automated continuous feedback. Okay. Your AppSec team is not busy in reactive sense. They are building, they are improving the platform. They are, working on the next control that will prevent an entire class of vulnerabilities rather than remediating them one by one. Now, moving ahead, start Monday. Now, I'm going to give you one move, not a roadmap, not a framework implementation plan. One concrete thing you can start next coming week, because the most common reason organizations don't move is lack of knowledge. And it's a decision paralysis in the face of a problem that looks too large to start. Now, if you are in level 1, okay, you are reactive, okay, and it's just quite interesting how these things come to be. Okay, now these are the 3 starting points. Okay, pick your single highest risk service. Okay, the one that handles payments or PII or authentication. Add SAST and SCAR and secret detection to the CI pipeline this week. Don't set them to block, set them to inform. Okay, so one move, okay, not culturally, formally, okay, organizationally, embed an AppSec engineer into your platform engineering team, not as a reviewer, as a builder. Okay, their job is to implement the security controls that AppSec has defined directly into the platform. Okay, and so, in closing, I want to close with a question that I think should be the test for every security program. Not are we compliant, not did we pass the pen test, not how many vulnerabilities did we disclose this quarter. The question is, if someone on your team tried to deploy a critical vulnerability to production at 2 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday, would your system catch it automatically without a human being woken up? If the answer is yes, you are shifting everywhere. If the answer is it depends, or probably, or we'd have to check, you see, I have work to do. Okay. The organizations that will win on security in the next 5 years are not the ones with the most scanners or the large AppSec headcounts or the most impressive compliance certificates. All right. They are the ones that made security deeply embedded in how they build and operate software that's stopping, okay, it will break, everything else. Now, that is shift everywhere. That is continuous AppSec engineering. And I hope this session has given you something concrete to take back, whether that's a mental model, a framework, or just one move you are going to make this week. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Hey everyone, my name is Sheena Yapchan. Hope you're having a fantastic day and enjoying the conference. Super excited to be here, and today's talk I'll be talking about why the right security signals don't drive decisions. So I hope you enjoy today's presentation, and I'm just going to quickly share the screen so we can get started and you can be able to gain at least one thing from today's talk. So hope you're having a fantastic day. Hope you've enjoyed some of the earlier talks. Feel free to share any comments you have. But yeah, let's start. Why the right security signals don't drive decisions. So this is going to be way, way, way less technical. And so I just kind of wanted to pre-frame that, but let's get started. So an opening thought, we like to think security failures come from something missing, whether it's a blind spot, a gap, maybe a tool we didn't have. But in many cases, that's not what really happens, right? The signal was there, it was accurate. Sometimes it just didn't turn into action. Something's wrong, and then sometimes, you just leave it thinking someone else might solve the problem. So It's not about having the right tools. You do have the right tools to signal something's wrong. It's what happens after that. So this is so important. The real problem, most breakdowns don't happen at detection, they happen after. Again, you see it, you see something is wrong, and then sometimes you just see the signal and don't do anything after. And then once something dire happens, that's when you start acting. So, it's between alert to escalation, escalation to decision, and then decision to action. That's where things stall. So it is important to when you see that signal, when you see something's wrong, it's important to act on it as right away, right? Because of course we want to make sure we solve it earlier than waiting it out and it becomes worse. It's kind of like as a kid, when you do something wrong, you try to hide it, and the more you hide it, the bigger it gets. And then when your parents find out you did something wrong, it's a lot bigger than when you first just said it out loud. Yes, you'll still get in trouble, but it won't be as bad, and then you can fix it right away. So what this talk is about and isn't about? So this is not about buying better tools, tuning alerts, increasing volume. You already have the technology to do that. This is really about why good signals get ignored, why escalation fails, and why technically correct often isn't enough. So it's really about, being able to be alert, taking action, utilizing your intuition, putting yourself, being able to be able to spotlight what is wrong, what needs to be fixed. Because again, you can have the best systems in the world, you can have the best tools, but if you don't act on it, nothing happens, and it becomes a bigger expense for everybody. So here's a familiar scenario you might have gone through. You've seen this before. An alert fires, it looks real, it's investigated, it's even documented, and still nothing happens. So if you've ever been there, don't worry, you're not the only one. It only becomes a thing when it becomes an incident, when it's too late, or when the problem becomes bigger. So what went wrong? It's not the signal, it's the system around the signal. It's what happens after you've been signaled the problem, right? Do you take action? Do you let it slide? Or do you just assume someone else is going to do it? So these are, I've spoken at many different tech conferences, being able to see they have some of the best software, some of the best things that they have, and they still go through a lot of problems because they don't take into account how to utilize it properly, or even talk about maybe there's something missing, or even giving the right instructions. It's kind of like a similar thing. So I will go through each and every one of that. So again, we're going to talk about the system around the signal. Do you have a system in place when the signal comes up, or do you just leave it? So here's some of the places where the signal breaks down. So here's some common failure points. One is alert fatigue, prior false positives, unclear ownership, this is a big one, role perception, not my call, we've also gone through that, and limited access to decision makers. None of these are technical problems if you see this, right? These are all human error problems, and it's fine, right? We all go through mistakes, it's not a big deal, but being able to be aware of these problems, we can find solutions through it. So alert fatigue, when everything feels urgent but really nothing is, right? Even strong signals still get delayed, downgraded, and ignored. So it's not because people don't care, but because they're overloaded. They're doing something else. There's another project. And especially in tech, you're always on a time crunch, on a deadline. So I totally get it. Next, the memory of false positive. Sometimes past experience shape present decisions, right? If something used to be noise, people are going to assume it still is, right? If they realize that, it wasn't urgent back then, it won't be urgent now. So even though they think it's not urgent, it really is, because each situation is different. What happened in the past may not happen in the present. So each and every situation may be different. Role perception, right? People don't act outside what they believe is their role, right? They may escalate it, but they don't decide on the action. They investigate, but they don't push that it needs to be done. So signals move, but you're still stalling. You're still at a barrier. What happens when you escalate? Who's going to decide to move forward? When you investigate, who's the one pushing it? So it is important to also have clear roles for each person. And sometimes you just have to be super clear, right? Because not everyone assumes that they're going to take on that action or even go out there and do it. So ownership gaps. It's also, if it's not clear who owns the decision, no one owns the risk, right? So Because of that, the signal sits in queues, tickets, and Slack threads, waiting for clarity that never comes. So if no one takes ownership on what to do, nothing happens. And then again, it becomes a bigger problem than it should have been, and then it creates a lose-lose situation for everybody. So all these little things, just tweaking it, can make a huge difference, can save a lot of money, can create win-win situations. And these are things that we're unaware of because of just small little things that we can tweak out for sure. Access to decision makers. Even when someone knows something is wrong, they may not have the authority, the visibility, or the path to escalate effectively. So because of this, the signal never reaches the level where action happens. So those were some of the things that may be common failures. If that's something you've gone through before, you're not the only one. I've seen many, many companies, many, tech industries that go through this. So, after learning all that, what is the core insight? Security is not just about detection, it's about translation. It's about what happens after you signal that there could be a problem, there could be a breach. So, it's turning signal into meaning into urgency, and then taking action to correct it. And that translation is human. So, it's not having the best technology, having the best software, because you already have that. It's what happens after. So why being right isn't enough. You can be technically correct, logically sound, fully validated, and still be ignored. Because decisions aren't made on accuracy alone, they're made on perception, context, and trust, and this is so important. And so I want to share with you a framework that I've been sharing throughout different industries, especially in tech, and I call it the Visible Framework. And it's based on 7 pillars, and it's derived from the word visible, and each letter represents something. So V is for voice, I is identity, S is for spotlight, I is inner work, B is belief, L is leverage, E is elevation. And so this is originally built for leadership and influence, but this is still very applicable to the security signal flow. And we're going to go through each one. I just want to give you an overview of this. So let's start with V for voice. How is the signal communicated? Is it clear? Is it confident? Is it framed in business impact? This is so important. Or is it buried in technical detail? Not everyone can understand technical language. If you gave me a technical term, I'm going to tell you I probably won't understand what you're saying. So it is important to be clear, to be framed in the outcome that happens. And when you have a weak voice, the signal is ignored. So it is important to be clear and confident. So again, make sure if the signal you're communicating, is it clear, confident, and framed in business impact. So sometimes you have to communicate it in a language that the other person can understand. I is for identity. How is the person delivering the signal perceived? Are they seen as credible, experienced, or trusted, or just another analyst? Signals are filtered through identity. So be able to, figure that out. S is for spotlight. This is important, right? What gets attention gets action. So if your signal is competing with other noise, lost in dashboard, buried in queues, are they clearly highlighted? If it's not visible, of course, nothing happens, right? So it is important to make spotlight on the security signals that you have so it can be escalated, take action, and be corrected right away. I is for inner work. What assumptions are shaping decisions, right? We don't know what other people are thinking, and sometimes there's a miscommunication because no one communicates. So if these are the assumptions they have, then nothing's going to happen. So things like, this is probably nothing, we've seen this before, I don't want to overreact. These quiet thoughts can shape the outcome. So it's really important to be upfront, to be clear, so we don't go through these assumptions. B is for belief. Does the organization believe the risk is real? So if leadership doesn't believe in it, how do you expect everybody else to believe in it? So if they don't believe that the threat is real, then it does, if they don't believe that the threat is real or it matters or the impact is serious, then nothing follows. So it is important to put that belief, yes, this isn't a necessary thing to fix right away, because if not, it becomes a negative impact on everybody. So it is important to build that belief. L is for leverage. Does the signal have a path to influence, right? Can it reach to the right decision makers? Does it have a clear escalation route? Does it connect to business risks, right? Sometimes it's just asking the right questions to get the right answers. And so if you weren't aware about these, then of course nothing happens. So if you have no leverage as well, nothing happens, right? There's no movement. Of course, if it doesn't reach to the right decision makers, how can you get it to escalate and then turn it to take action on it so you can fix it? So it is important to have these questions to find the right answers so that you can get the signal done and done properly and done at the earlier, the better. And then E is for elevation. Can the signal rise to the right level, or does it get stuck? It gets stuck in tooling, in process, or in middle layers. So elevation is what turns awareness into action. So yes, it's important to have awareness, but if you don't take action, nothing happens. It's still the same thing. Nothing moves, and then it becomes a bigger problem than it should have been. So these are really important, and going through this framework really helps you get to the right questions so you can get the right answers and start implementing it. So let's put it all together. So when the signal fails, here's some questions that you can ask. Was it heard? So that's the voice pillar. Was it trusted? That's the identity part. Was it seen? Spotlighting it. Was it interpreted correctly? Inner work. Was it belief? So belief. Could it influence? Leverage. And did it reach the right level? Elevation. So putting it all together, you can have a really great system of what happens after you have that signal. It can help you take action. It can solve the problem a lot quicker, and it minimizes more costs, more troubles in the long run. So here's a practical diagnostic lens. So again, it's all about how you ask the questions, right? It's not, instead of asking, why didn't we catch this? Start asking, where did the signals lose momentum, right? So when you can pinpoint where you lost momentum, then you can course correct it and have a better way of doing things. That's where the real fix is. And so what this changes, you don't need more alerts, louder escalations, more tools. You need a clearer signal flow, better translation, and strong decision pathways. So again, this is all not technical. This is all human. When you're able to communicate better, identify better, leverage better, build belief, not have assumptions, and really have a clear path to taking action, it becomes a win-win situation for everybody. So here's some key takeaways. Most failures happen after detection. Human and organizational factors shape the outcomes. Accuracy alone doesn't drive decisions, and signal flow can be diagnosed and improved. So again, little tweaks to improve the flow to have not only a signal, but having an action path to treating the signal or to fixing the signal. And so here's my final thoughts. The goal isn't just to detect the risks, it's to make sure the right signals actually lead to action. Again, if you don't take action on it, nothing happens and it becomes a bigger problem. So because a perfect alert that goes nowhere is still a failure. So again, I hope this was, just kind of a little bit eye-opening, just to see like small tweaks can make a big improvement. And again, once you have the signal, it is important to figure out what happens after that. Who takes ownership? Who's going to escalate it? Who's going to take it to the right decision makers? This is all, part of us, right? As humans, we can do this. We can move forward. Again, you can have the best technology in the world, the most alerts that you have, the more signals, but if you don't take action on it, nothing happens, and it becomes, a big cost for everybody else. So I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. If you'd like to connect with me, here is my barcode that you can scan. It goes to all my social media, my websites, my books. And if you would like a copy of this presentation, just go to this link, shinayapchan.com /presentations. and you can enter your contact info, and I will have this copy sent to you directly to your inbox. So again, I really hope you had a great I hope you really enjoyed this presentation. It's short but impactful, and I hope this kind of help you see things from a different perspective, see things that, it's not always just technical. It could also be from being able to communicate better, being able to show up better, being able to pinpoint what needs to be treated or what needs to be spotlighted to move forward. So again, my name is Sheena Yapchan. I hope you enjoy the rest of the virtual event, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.
We want to extend our heartfelt thanks to all the speakers and to our sponsors. Hearing this expertise from various industries and knowledge domains has been a true privilege. Reflecting on why we're all here, it's clear that SecJuice is more than a nonprofit publication. It's a community dedicated to news, education, and useful content on information security. Our mission transcends simple knowledge sharing. We want to push the boundaries. By integrating diverse perspectives and expertise from innovative minds, we spark new ideas and techniques that propel the field forward. This conference has been a key part of that mission. The real impact will be seen when you take what you've learned here and apply it, challenge it, and build on it. We invite you to become more involved with SecJuice. Join us as a writer, contributor, or community member. Share your insights, publish your discoveries, and build your reputation. Being a writer for SecJuice holds great value. It can open doors, build credibility, and distinguish you in the industry. Thank you all for your time, ideas, and passion. This community is the core of what makes SecJuice and SecjuiceCon special. We eagerly anticipate seeing you all again next year. Until then, keep pushing forward, keep innovating, and keep the conversation going.